Yo, is it on, everybody? Is it on, everybody? I'm guessing it's on since... Yeah, I guess it's on, because it is on. I just know it's on. Anyway, so, did I cancel, like, one stream last week? I did, yeah. And I randomly found this, which is about, no, you don't want to move to Japan. And you know how a lot of people just like randomly want to move to Japan? You know, like there's like this formula where you like Japan, thus you have to move to Japan. You know what I mean? There's like that formula, right? Do you guys want to move to Japan, by the way? I'm so curious about this. Do you guys want to move to Japan? Let me take a poll. Do you want to move to Japan? By the way, dude, the guy who made this video, he's raging. He's raging here. He's like arguing, and I was like, let's go. Yes. Alright, so you guys want to move to Japan. But the reason why I wanted to talk about this video is because simply, I feel like he's right. I didn't watch this, by the way, but I think he's right. I'm 100% sure he's gonna talk about what I know about Japan. He's probably right about this. So, like, should you move to Japan? Not really. You don't have to move to Japan. Because the thing is here, a lot of people like Japan. They watch anime and stuff, right? And they just go like, oh, Japan's such a great country. They watch anime, and watching anime there is not weird. I can go to Japan and I can watch anime. And that's true, right? So you want to suddenly move to Japan. You know what I mean? You want to suddenly move to Japan. It's not like you want to visit Japan, but you want to move to Japan. And that's like really interesting to me. So like a lot of people that want to move to America, like any Japanese people that I know, they usually just first visit America. They usually like first like study in America or something. They don't just like straight up like move to America. But when it comes down to Japan, they freaking just move to Japan. And then they figure out like there are like so many rules and they just go like, fuck this. And then they usually like teach English in Japan too, which is like not what they want to do. They freaking want to come to Japan. Their goal is to come to Japan. So they just forcibly try to get a job, right? And then they teach English when they don't even want to teach English. You know what I mean? That thing is freaking really, really interesting to me. And thank you, Steve, for job, eat and play arcade. Yeah. So like, if you want to come to Japan, that's fine too. Like, if you want to move to Japan, that's fine too. If you've been to Japan and if you're so sure that you want to live in Japan, then you can. But why would you guys freaking just like suddenly want to move to Japan without like actually like visiting Japan? You know what I mean? So I wanted to talk about this video, but so he has like this huge like thing, disclaimer. This video is not a critique of Japanese culture. Get it, everybody? It is a series of reasons why, from a Western perspective, those from the West should not move to Japan without heeding much warning. I literally talked about this. Anything I describe as weird or strange are from my perspective and do not represent objective reality, nor does it mean that I dislike Japan for possessing such things. This is like really interesting. So he's probably like a nice person. He is trying to talk about his perspective, and he's like just actually nice about it. And I respect that. But then he's arguing here. Let's go. Is he arguing? But yeah, either way, I want to see what this video is about, because I'm actually curious about this. What did he say? No, I think it's just like simply because like a lot of people, you know, saw this video title and then they just went like, you don't like Japan? Fuck you. I feel like that's what's happening, which is like what people experience. So in my case, I never get it because I'm Japanese myself, right? I'm Japanese myself. I grew up in Japan. Like if you say anything to me, then like people usually just go up to the viewers instead and they just go like, did you talk shit about Naruto? Did you say Dragon Ball sucks? Which, by the way, is actually what happens on my channel somehow. I don't know why, but that's the reality. Anyways, let me just watch this and let me talk about what is actually true and what is not really true. And I'm gonna talk about all the things I know. And again, I haven't checked this video yet, so I don't know what this is about. I'm gonna talk about all the truth here, okay?
The Japanese Archipelago. While in America, we have the boring and stinky metropolis known as Place. Have you ever tried visiting Place, Japan?
That's a place in Japan.
Ever seen this?
Oh my gosh.
Boring sight? What about in Japan?
Oh my gosh.
Well, this should.
That's Japan. I'm sorry, I had to get some American to make myself American here, and it's Pepsi. It's not really American enough.
Wouldn't be the only thing convincing you to move to this beautiful country. How about the wonderful work culture? Everyone here is treated fairly.
Oh my gosh! That's so beautiful!
Everyone.
Oh my gosh! Japan's so clean! Everybody's walking in Japan! Oh my gosh!
Especially
I wanna move.
foreigners.
Even had a company say that employees need to pay them when they miss work.
Are given plenty of.
By the way, I experienced it myself actually. That's from my experience too. When I used to work out at 7-Eleven, I had to pay them somehow. I don't know why though, but I had to pay them. It's more that I didn't have to pay them, but they had to, like, get some of my salary from my paycheck somehow. I don't know why, and I don't know how that works. That's probably illegal, but I didn't say anything. But that's something I experienced when I was like 17. Is that legal? I kind of doubt it is legal. I feel like it's not really entirely legal, but that happened. Yeah, that was weird actually.
Of work opportunities at some of the world's fastest growing and technologically advanced companies. Or maybe you want to move here for the culture, which is fair and equal. It treats everyone.
Oh my gosh, anime kawaii desu.
Regardless of race or sex.
And by the way, there's like seriously nothing wrong with like coming to Japan because you like anime. Like, you know how you guys freaking say like, oh, going to Japan because you like anime is disrespectful. By the way, I'm curious about this. I want to ask you something. And by the way, thank you so much for the donation. I want to move to Japan to be a nuisance and create more rage content for YouTubers like Sora. Thank you so much for the donation. Let me actually take a poll here. Is it rude to visit Japan because you like anime? I'm curious about this. This is something I see a lot on the internet. It's something you see only on the internet. You don't really see this like actually in real life in Japan. I'm curious about this. No? Okay, no 90%. So some people actually voted yes, and then I'm gonna end the poll here because it's probably like 90%. Like, so a lot of people think that just visit now. Then here's how is this? Let me change the question here. Is it rude to move to Japan because you like anime? Here. Is it rude to move to Japan because you like anime? I want to know about this. Okay, so still like there are a lot of people saying no, and there are some people like suddenly say yes this time, which I think is really interesting. Let me actually tell you something. Anime is a Japanese culture. Japanese people have pride about anime. They actually appreciate it. Like when you guys say like, oh, I like anime. They appreciate weebs. Like Japanese people legitimately like weebs. Do you know like that one guy called David Do-kun? That guy's actually liked in Japan because he appreciates anime. He's not a nuisance guy or anything, right? So basically here, anime is Japanese culture. Like that's how we see it. Like anime is literally literature here. Some people like actually appreciate anime too. So Japanese people like it when you say like, oh, I like anime. I want to move to Japan because of anime. That's not anything crazy here actually. It's like the same thing as saying like, oh, I watched a lot of Hollywood movies and I want to be in America. It's like the same thing as like that. You know how some Japanese people say like, oh yeah, I like Marvel, so I just decided to come to Japan. Oh yeah, I like American music, so I decided to move to America. That's the same thing. But either way, thank you so much for the donation. Kieran, I love Japan and I want to visit Tokyo next year for my 23rd birthday. It would be my first time in Japan. You can, yeah, you can, you should. And there's like nothing wrong with like coming to Japan or anything. There are so many people who suddenly, who somehow think that coming to Japan's like rude or like disrespectful in 2025. It's not. It's seriously not disrespectful. You know what's disrespectful in Japan now, right? Like all the nuisance streamers are kind of proving like what's rude, right? Like if you don't do that, people actually appreciate you, like being in Japan, appreciating Japan. Like a lot of people can probably vouch for me. Like there's nothing wrong with like actually talking about anime, saying like, oh, I want to be in Japan because I like anime. It might be cringy, to be fair. It's cringy. Okay, you know what? Let me rephrase it this way. It's cringy, yeah. If you want to move to Japan because you like anime, it's cringy. I get it. It's cringy. But is it rude? It's not rude. Is it disrespectful? It's not disrespectful. Is it cringy? Yeah, it's cringy. So if you just face reality, then you can. So if you know how to face reality, yeah, watch anime and just like, come to Japan and like just be in Japan. It's cringy. You know it's cringy. You know it's cringy. You know it's cringy, but it's not rude. It's not rude. It's not against like, rules or like manners or anything. It's not disrespectful. You are not an asshole. Is it cringy? Yeah, you're cringy. But I mean, everybody's kind of cringy. So I just wanted to point that out.
With respect and... Okay, fine. I'll stop glazing Japan. I'm sure you all have heard enough of that. Japan, for those living in
-1 billion,
has basically become a global cultural powerhouse, second only to really the United States and maybe Europe. What you are saying, bro? Europe is a...
Not basically like the entire world. I'm sorry.
Continents, bro. We are different countries, bro. Typical America. Either way, most of
I know
this
there are more countries, but like...
cultural significance is both the result of the aftershocks created by the Japanese economic miracle throughout the 70s and 80s, as well as anime becoming wildly popular abroad within the past decade or so.
US anime market, let's go. Japan's getting mentioned in anime. It's like, there, let's go. That's fire, yo, everybody. Let's go, everybody. Yeah, you know what? When you talk about Japan, you have to talk about anime, which is, by the way, fine completely. Like, Japanese people actually think it's fire too, by the way, like how we have like a lot of fire anime.
So, this cultural mega status has made the idea of...
I wonder if the virginity rate rose with anime. Somebody was talking about this. Virginity rate didn't change because of anime, but virginity rate changed after League of Legends got released. So yeah, that's a thing.
Japan become more and more romanticized as time has gone on. I mean, you've probably seen it. If you go to your average high school 13 years ago and say, hey, has anyone seen that new episode of Steins?
まさか大切な人になるなんて節目にハウスメイト
体バキバキですよ。
社会人なら体をほぐす技術は必須だぞ。
Yeah, you probably end up like that guy. Nowadays, if you say something like, yo, anyone see that new episode of One Piece? At least one person of every ethnic and racial background on Earth will materialize into the room you're in and swarm you to engage in a lively debate about what just happened on their favorite cartoon last night, at least in America. The difference is...
that's kind of like what it was like in Japan too. So like, Emo, thank you. Anime is awesome, but the industry is toxic. I've heard of it too. So it's the same in Japan. You know how a lot of people like suddenly started talking about anime in 2025 and it's cool now. You guys know about that, by the way? Like, it's not cringy to talk about anime anymore. Like, it's, like, accepted now. I mean, it might be still cringy depending on, like, where you're from. But as far as I know, in Japan, like, talking about anime was kind of, it's not really, like, cringy, but it was kind of, like, for nerds. Like, when I was, like, 15, for example. Like, I guess people still kind of talked about anime, but it's not like, oh, yeah, I like anime, bro. I'm fired. We didn't have that before. It was kind of like, oh yeah, I watch anime, that kind of thing. Now in 2025, it's like, oh yeah, bro, do you watch Jujutsu Kaisen, bro? You don't watch it? You're cringe, bro. What the fuck? It's how it is in Japan too. I don't know if it's the same outside of Japan or not, but like watching anime makes you a Rizzler in Japan now. And I'm sorry for saying the word Rizzler, but I'm sorry for speaking brain rot.
This had on American culture and thus by proxy the rest of the world has catapulted Japan into a new cultural renaissance in a sense. What's funny is that historically speaking, this isn't the first time this has happened. You have an influence on Portuguese and Spanish art in the late 17th and early 18th centuries due to things learned from Europe's first contact with Japan, and the Japanese movement in the late 19th century spurred on by an increasingly open Japan starting in 1858. For whatever reason, Japan and its culture have captivated the world multiple times throughout history. However, things are different now. Rather than a passing interest in Japan or a more reserved, oh yeah, they're pretty cool attitude that the rest of the world has towards them, we've seen an ever-increasing idealization of what can just be seen as another part of the world.
Please have my video there too. I want to get some exposure.
Not all of you venerate Japan as some kind of utopia, but a lot of people nowadays definitely have this idealized view of Japan in some form or another. Whether that be the belief of a superior nature, culture, art, media, fashion, etc. I've gotten pretty tired of the ridiculous amount of hype surrounding Japan, which is often propped up.
Do you guys know about this dude, by the way? So he's like a guy that teaches Japanese on Twitter, and he actually teaches like a lot of like wrong stuff, but he's doing it on purpose. Like he's what is his name again? Kevin T, thank you. The Shohei Kondo video about Assassin's Creed. I don't know what that is, but I know there's like some controversy going on. I want to play it like on stream and see like if it's like actually like offensive or not. Sephiroth Sama, yeah, he's like some person on Twitter that teaches like wrong Japanese, I guess. But this dude is like obviously like doing it for like comedic purposes. Like he's not for real. But he's getting hate there. It's freaking hilarious. So if you guys are curious about this dude, search like Sephiroth Sama on Twitter, and yeah, he's like out there teaching Japanese.
By unrealistic expectations and, for better or for worse, anime. You might be thinking, on what authority can I have commentary on Japan? It's not like I've been there. Yeah, I've been there. And it was by far the most interesting trip I've ever been on. I'll weave my experiences in and out of the video as needed, but I want to focus on a bigger picture viewpoint of the country before I dive deeper. The question I'm seeking to answer, broadly speaking, is this. Is Japan really all that amazing? Or is it just another—
Is not Japan all that amazing? I'm going to be honest here as a Japanese person who's been in Japan, and I'm going to talk about it as a guy who's been to like America a lot of times too. Is Japan amazing? I'm gonna say this myself. I guess it is amazing if you want to experience things, because you can experience a lot of things, and safety is like guaranteed here. Actually, I've been to like a lot of like dangerous places in Japan. You don't get jumped here. Like getting jumped in Japan is like such a freaking funny concept. So is it amazing to see things? It is actually. But is it amazing to live? Maybe, depending on like what you like. It really depends on what job you have too. Like I have to say, like, do you think you'll be fine being a foreigner in Japan? That's like the biggest part too, by the way. And Mo, thank you. The craziest part about Japan is to me is that how much money you can get if you're a decent sumo wrestler. I didn't know about that, but thank you so much for the donation. How do you get jumped in Japan? I heard there was a person who got jumped in Japan because he was like being problematic. And he's a foreigner or something, but that's what I heard. But like getting jumped in Japan is like freaking hilarious as fuck. Like that never happens, but it happened apparently, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Part of the world that has its own goods and bads like anywhere else on Earth. You can probably guess what my answer is to that question, but let's actually take a deeper, more objective dive into both the good and bad things about Japan on a generalized basis.
So like before watching the entire thing, I'm gonna talk about what he's gonna say, and I'm gonna talk about the answer here. Should you move to Japan? The answer is no, because like a lot of you guys out there, let me actually ask you guys one more question. Have you ever been to Japan? Like, I'm gonna be serious here. Have you ever been to Japan? Why? I'm gonna talk about it. Should you move to Japan? No. So have you ever been to Japan? No, 67%. Okay, I want you guys to remember the number here. 67%. No, right? And then here's the thing. 67% of the people out there are saying, oh no, I've never been to Japan. Here, do you want to live in Japan? You can be honest here. I'm not going to roast you or anything. I actually need the correct data here. So 67% of the people said, oh, I've never been to Japan. But here's the thing. Now, the answer is like really interesting here. 41% of the people are saying, then 63% of the people are saying, oh, I want to live in Japan, which is here. Even though 67% of the people have never been to Japan, but then at the same time, 63% of the people are saying, oh, I want to live in Japan, even though they've never been to Japan. That's the problem. And that's kind of like what people talk about all the time. Like, how come you want to live in a country you've never visited, right? Like, maybe you just kind of know about the country because, you know, you watch a lot of like Japanese videos and stuff, but actually experiencing it is a whole different experience. Because if you watch videos, for example, you're seeing things through people's lenses, right? So like you're not really seeing like what it's like yourself, right? So if you want to live in Japan, you have to like actually visit Japan once and then see like, oh, you know what? This part I don't like. I don't like about this part of Japan, about this part about Japan, or I like this about Japan, and then you try living in Japan for like, let's say like a month as a student, or like just, I don't know, just like do whatever in Japan, and then see like if that works out for you or not. Then you can say like, oh, you know what, I don't like living in here, so I guess I'll just go back to my country. Or if you like it, then you can just live in Japan. And thank you so much for the donation. It's cringe to move to Japan because of animes. True, you can watch the same shit back home anyway. Moving to experience other things and do work related to anime isn't cringe. But thank you so much for the donation. So like, I've been saying this, yeah, moving to Japan because you like anime, it's cringe, yes. But it's rude, it's not. Is it bad? It's not bad. Is it cringy? It's cringy, yes. So if you want to move to Japan because you like anime, you can, but it's not disrespectful. Like, Japanese people don't care. And Emo, thank you. You know, if those people have ever been in Japan for summer, you'll get deterred and never want to be in Japan anymore. But thank you so much for the donation. Yeah, summer in Japan is actually a hell. It's like a living hell. So don't come to Japan in summer. In June, July, basically. July, actually? But yeah. So what I wanted to say here is, again, should you move to Japan? No, because you've never been to Japan. Should you move to Japan because you like Japan and you've been to Japan? Yes. And he's going to probably say the same thing here, because that's literally what I've been saying. All the people that hated living in Japan are the ones who've never actually visited Japan, and they somehow teach English in Japan because they cannot get any other jobs. And they don't want to teach English. They don't even like teaching English. They don't even like to talk to, like, you know, kids and teach English to kids. But then they couldn't get any other jobs, so they just decided to teach English, which is something they hate, and then they just go like, what the fuck, my experience sucks, I hate Japan, which is the formula here. I've seen this so many times. It's literally 95% of like the people that didn't like living in Japan. If you are curious about this, search I hated living in Japan, and then check if they start talking about their experiences teaching English in Japan or not. They will 100% talk about like their teaching experience in Japan, and they don't even like teaching. That's one of the cases. And thank you, the Hads. Oh my god, I love that yakisoba place. It's in the cross from Dotonbori Business Hotel. Thank you so much for the donation. But yeah, I really appreciate it too. Anyways, do you think visiting Japan is enough to get a real idea about the country? Yes. It's still like a lot better because you can kind of like see what it's like. Like, you can just visit the country once and see if it's even capable for you to deal with things. Because like, so the thing is here, if you visit Japan, you're not gonna deal with like, you know, the whole like work culture and whatever, but you'll see what it's like, right? Like, you'll see how Japanese people treat you, what the culture is like. Is it impossible for you to live in Japan because like you cannot talk to other people? Do you think you can live in Japan with your Japanese skills? You can actually try a lot of things for 2 months. I mean, you need 2 weeks at least. Then you can kind of try it, right? It's still better to like live in Japan for a month, I gotta say, like as a student, but you can try it. The worst case scenario is like literally just straight up like moving to Japan without knowing what Japan's like. I've seen so many cases where they hated living in Japan because it was like their first time coming to Japan, right? And thank you. Dying death. For myself, I'm currently willing to move in the future because I like the respect of others' private life surrounding engagement in work. I currently study Japanese as well alone for this. But thank you so much for the donation. So, you want to come to Japan and you want to move to Japan, right? I still recommend you to come to Japan at least once. Just once, okay? Then you can see if you actually like it or not. Is basically, the summary of like this video probably.
Without further ado, welcome, ladies and gentlebakas.
But I've been saying this forever.
Now, to begin, is Japan a bad country? No.
I wouldn't say so either. Yeah.
Sorry, contrary.
Like, as a Japanese guy who's been in Japan, it's not like me being patriotic or anything. I'm trying to be fair here. Is Japan a bad country? I wouldn't say so. Yeah, I wouldn't say so.
Edgelords, I'm not going to be bashing the country as a whole for just having...
Simply because it's safe. Like, that's like what I have to say here. Like, simply because it's so safe here, I don't think, it's a bad country. Because your safety is, like, guaranteed here.
Issues. As an American, we all know how big of a double standard that would be. To prove that I genuinely do believe Japan has some really amazing things about it, let's talk about some of them, largely from personal experience. Just to get it out of the way, yes, I do think Japanese animation, as of now, is just better than Western animation. This isn't because of some immutable characteristic or coolness factor.
You watch anime?
I do have some objective reasons behind this. For starters, Western animation for the longest time has been dominated by a top-down system. And this way, independent artists or production teams pitch shows to networks who have boards that decide to greenlight them or toss their pitch bibles in the trash. The show, in America and much of the Western world, does not see the light of day unless an executive gives it the go-ahead.
To be fair though, a lot of Japanese people like American movies. So like, yeah, right, Japanese anime is like probably better. I gotta say it myself too, because you know that's just how that is. But Japanese people truly think movies are better in the States. Like Japanese people think like Japanese movies are shit. So there's like that too. And Mo, thank you. I think the most challenging thing is that there will always be a social bubble that never popped whether your Japanese language level. Yeah, but thank you so much for the donation, yeah. But thank you so much for that, yeah.
In Japan, however, the system is largely bottom-up. For an anime to be created...
Thank you, Young Kim. I moved to Japan because I love martial arts. But I first did a brief summer study abroad program as a uni student first. So like here, actually, what this guy did, Young Kim, that's literally like the best way to move to Japan. So he has like the first like, you know, reason, right? Oh, I love martial arts. It can be anime too, by the way. It can be anime. Like I love anime. I love Attack on Titan. And then I went to Japan to study Japanese, and then I decided to move to Japan. You can actually say the same thing too, but this is like the model. Like, this is like the role model of like how to move to Japan. He liked something about Japan. He visited Japan, or he actually studied in Japan, and then he moved to Japan, right? Like that's how you know you're not gonna like spend a bad life in Japan. Cause like it's just all about what you like, right? Like some people just don't like some certain things about like Japan. Something like being treated as a foreigner because like you're in Japan. Some people hate that. And what else? Like not being able to eat some certain food. Like that can be apparently like a game changer for some people. Or like what else? Not being able to speak Japanese. I heard it's a thing too. So you gotta just try it, right? And see if you like it. But you just have to be in Japan and then move to Japan later on. It might be like costly though, but you kind of have to do it like that, yeah.
In the first place, it needs to be based on an already successful property created by an individual or small team of artists from the manga space. While these are often published by large companies, with the notable exception of stuff like One Punch, a property needs to be successful due
Actually,
to the
I
work
want to
put
talk about this. It has like nothing to do with the video or anything.
large company?
But here, so that's Luffy, right? And that's Goku, right? By the way. So you know how Goku is like weird here. So this was drawn by the guy who made One Piece. Do you guys know why Goku is like drawn like this? Do you guys know why though? There's a reason. Yeah, Goku with One Piece face. But do you know why though? Oda Eiichiro, he did this. But do you know why though? Unique style? No, it's not that. It's not that. Okay, so some people know about this, yeah. Some people know about this. Oda Sensei, a special edition? It's not that. It's not that. So this guy, there's this guy called Oda Eiichiro. He made One Piece. And then the guy was supposed to draw Goku, right? But then Goku turned out to be like this. And Oda Eiichiro actually talked about this. It's an honor thing. So Oda Eiichiro is a huge fan of like Dragon Ball. Oda, the guy who made One Piece, got strongly influenced by Dragon Ball. Like that guy loves Dragon Ball too much to the point where Dragon Ball cannot be drawn by like anybody else but Toriyama. So he didn't want to even draw like Goku. Like he just didn't want to do it. So what he did was here. He just really didn't want to do it, but like he was kind of like one event. Like it was like for like this one like a event. And Oda was like sort of forced to like draw Goku or something. I don't know what the whole story was like. And then he was like, fuck, I don't want to draw Goku because Goku belongs to Toriyama sensei. So what he did was this. Because this way he's not really Goku, but he still like decided to draw. He still like managed to draw Goku, right? So that was like his way to escape from like getting forced to draw Goku or something. It's just Oda really, really likes Dragon Ball and Toriyama, and he felt bad about this. So he just decided to make this Luffy Goku thing. But that's just one story that I know. Anyways, thank you. Aqua Breeze. I cannot get my ADHD meds in Japan. Yeah, that's something I heard, yes. They are considered amphetamines and outright banned. Love bits in Japan, but I can't live there. Yeah, like, so there's something like that too. So you have to make sure, like, if you can actually live in Japan with, like, the medications you get. That's actually one thing I heard too. Like, Adderall is banned in Japan, I think. It's considered like a meth here, right? Isn't it? But yeah.
With the notable exception of stuff like One Punch, a property needs to be successful due to the work put in by an individual, which greatly increases its chances of getting a full animated rendition. This system, while not immune to the predatory practices and abuse by publishers that we'll talk about later, it does result in a better, more fleshed out show as opposed to Western networks which constantly try to create the next SpongeBob or something and focus on comedy and pre-existing franchises to make a quick, guaranteed buck. Yes, Japan is indeed a beautiful place. While it's not the only beautiful place on Earth, there are certainly few countries which are as consistently beautiful as Japan in my opinion. Riding on the Shinkansen and watching large open fields go by with mountains in the distance, or taking a $12 round-trip funicular to the top of some mountain to see the best views my eyes have ever laid themselves upon, or literally taking a local train to the airport on my way out. Japan genuinely is one of the most beautiful countries I've ever visited. And that's saying something after I've climbed mountains in the Alps, hiked through Grand Tetons, and marveled at St. Peter's Basilica. However, I'm not gonna pretend that Japan is pretty everywhere. Just like the US, just like Europe, just like anywhere else, it has its more boring and dull places.
Yeah,
Don't believe me?
true.
Let's do an experiment. To try it for yourself, go to Japan on Google Maps. Then drag the Street View marker to basically anywhere north of the Tokyo Metro. There's a pretty solid chance you're gonna land somewhere that isn't ugly, but isn't...
Do you guys want to do this? I actually did this in a membership, in one of like those membership streams. I did it once. So everybody, let's play a game here. All right, so I got Google Maps here, right? North Tokyo, so above here. And then I gotta do this, right? Right? Ready? Boo! How bad is hay fever in Japan? For me, it's nothing, but for some people, it's like really, really bad, I heard. For me, it's like literally nothing, but yeah. But thank you so much for the donation. I heard it's like really, it depends on like how bad you are, like how sensitive you are to like the pollen. Okay. No. Okay. I get it now, but no. Wait. I want to actually prove that dude wrong. Wait. Is it kind of shitty? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of shitty, isn't it? But no, it's kind of shitty. It's shitty, no, isn't it? No, let me try one more time. I want to prove that dude actually wrong here. Like, cause I've seen some like freaking insane places. Like, how about here? Like, bong. Yeah, that's nothing. That's that's kind of bad, isn't it? Yeah, that's kind of boring. Like, there's like nothing. So, yeah, you know, this is kind of bad, I guess, right? Yeah, there's like nothing here. Yeah, see? So.
Is it the most beautiful place you've ever laid eyes on? Or let's just take the opposite approach. Drop it literally anywhere, pretend you don't see Japanese text, maybe at a Walmart and a mobile gas sign, and oh, there we go. We've just invented rural Montana. All that aside though, Japan is definitely a culture that values and appreciates natural beauty, so you get more spots like this compared to this. Yes, the people here are very polite. The only rudeness I ever encountered here was from some like middle-aged North English dude who I caught the glance of a couple times at a gyoza restaurant, only for him to walk by me and say, "You're a fucking deckhead," multiple times before his friend came and apologized for him because he was very drunk apparently, which I've never heard of any British person ever being drunk in my life before, if you can believe it. Every person I encountered would always try their best to be friendly, inviting, and always greet me or whoever I was with a smile. And to the Western-born Japan glazers racing to the comments to tell me how I was probably oblivious to the fact that they are shy and won't really tell people off. First of all, that's not true. I've seen it happen. And second of all, I make sure...
Please stop infantilizing Japanese people and their culture. They are plenty capable of being mean when they have to be. Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Be as polite and gracious as possible when it comes to interacting with different cultures. I'm not running around Shinjuku with my...
I'm actually thinking about making a video, like, how there are people that talk about Japan without knowing what Japan's like. Like, there was like this one video that was basically saying how the government issued this paper, and now like they're like the government in Japan's like trying to hand down Johnny Somali or something, which is like obviously like misinformation, because the Japanese government never does that. So I don't know, but like it's kind of like a trend now where, that's really a thing. Yeah.
Shirt off spouting expletives at locals, like what might happen in the walled city of New York or Trenton, New Jersey or something. However, as I mentioned earlier, a major drawback with this politeness is that, yeah, Japanese people are quite shy. I'll go more into this later, but it's just a caveat to everything I've said so far.
Yeah.
Yes.
By the way, do you guys know why Japanese people are shy though, by the way? There's a reason as to this. I'm sorry. Let me just spin this because like I thought it was funny. And let me just read the donation. Thank you, JT. 英語の文字足りないから日本語でメッセージを送る。3ヶ月日本に住んだことある。20回以上旅行やって46都道府県訪ねたことある。お料理行ってるね。季節、お盆4季節ね。年末年始。ゴールデンウィーク経営日本で働きたくない労働文化やだから自営業な生活できるかも。そう、俺もそれ思うよ。だから俺も自営業だから日本でいいかなと思ってるところです。But thank you so much for the donation too. So let me actually talk about this. J9RQ. Hey y'all, just found the stream. Is it still okay for foreigners to visit Japan? I kind of talked about this before so many times. I don't really think there's been like anything like how Japanese people say like, fuck foreigners, get the fuck out of Japan. Like that never happened, and somehow a lot of people think like that's what's happening somehow. And on my channel too, I've been kind of talking about this thing where a lot of people assume that like foreigners are getting kicked out of Japan and foreigners are getting punched in Japan. I memed about this so many times because I've never heard of like anything like that here. So let me talk about this. Basically, foreigners moving to Japan is now like foreigners visiting Japan. I don't really think any Japanese people went like, fuck. But there are so many like online comments that say like, oh yeah, fuck, get out of Japan. But that never was a thing, as far as I know. So I actually memed about it so many times how you get punched for like, visiting Japan or something, which is like never a thing, by the way. I memed about it like around here. See? How foreigners speaking bad Japanese is a crime now. How foreigners are bullied in Japan now. How being friends with foreigners is illegal in Japan now. It's not really. All these are not true. This is just me trolling, right? Because like a lot of people on the internet say like, oh yeah, if you go to Japan as a foreigner, you are rude. And it's not, right? It's all about what you do in Japan. Japanese people actually appreciate you for being polite and like appreciating Japanese culture. Like Japanese people legitimately like it. Do you want proof? Here, let me show it to you. 外国人の反応, it's like a great thing. 外国人の反応 basically means like a foreigner's reaction. So now you can kind of see how a lot of people already searched like 外国人の反応, which means like a foreigner's reaction. And they actually appreciate foreigners talking about Japan and like appreciating Japan. And Kieran, thank you. Have you been to the UK? No, I've never been there, but thank you so much for the donation. Like, see, so this is like, foreigners like talking about Japan, in Japan. They're getting like, interviewed here. And then, these people talking about Japan, and they actually appreciate that here. Like this guy's like even saying like, oh, I'm so happy like they are interested in Japan, whatever, like, oh, whatever, like they appreciate that, right? So they like it if foreigners are like actually being polite and being like thankful for like the culture we have here. There's like no such thing as like, oh, going to Japan is a bad thing as a foreigner. It's like Japanese people don't see it that way. It's all about what you do, right? And I thought it was obvious too. Like there was like nothing like, there's been no such thing as like Japanese people trying to kick out foreigners for not doing anything. And the Kyoto situation, actually, let me talk about this too. Kyoto is a little bit different, by the way. So I've been saying this too, but Kyoto is like that one prefecture where like there are a lot of like traditional things, right? But Kyoto is a religious place. Like it's kind of like Southern Belt in America, right? So a lot of the locals in Kyoto believe Kyoto's like not for sightseeing. So some people are like really, really mean there, but that's the culture there. Kyoto like you can ask any people from Kyoto, like it's their culture to be mean. So they just don't like tourists coming to Kyoto, including myself. I actually like got some hate for going to Kyoto by like some locals. It was like on stream, by the way. But that's the culture there. So like Kyoto's a bit different. Yeah, Kyoto people are kind of mean to everybody, but that's the culture there. If you are curious about this, just search videos about Kyoto. They are like a bit meaner than like other people, but that's because their culture. But yeah, so is it bad to visit Japan? No. It's all about what you do.
As a musician myself, Japanese music is really secondary only to American music and beats it in some respects, in its ability to weave different styles and customs together to create some really cool and unique fusion music. Classical rock fusion, an inherently unique style of jazz and funk, Vocaloid, basically most modern genres of music you hear today are either descended from American or Japanese forms of music, or at the very least are echoes of earlier styles from those countries.
But really quickly, we have to do Two-Buck Troop Roll Call! Unusual Chief Guy Finn, Yellow, Premier Type of TV Cat Mask, Jeff 2, Sokatone Soldier, Andy, Maggie Gordon, alongside CNN, Chloe Beavers, Agent 2187, Spec Norway, Nep, Callow Fox, Tibet Korkmaz, Duke, Always Cone Maria, Mika Henderson, and Gameboy Patreon, as well as Pink Floyd Fanatic, Zode, M Now Panda, Devogen, Draggy, Alamovo, Blueberry Vanny, Pickle, Haslock, Planet Wild Sunny, and Zakro. Enlist in the Two-Buck Troop by using the link in the description.
Now that I've warded off the people
What?
thinking I want to unfairly bash the country for just having some issues, let's dive into the real meat of the video. Why you wouldn't want to move to Japan, despite all the things I just mentioned.
Thank you, Kieran. Why has PlayStation abandoned Japan? Why has PlayStation abandoned Japan? Isn't that like a Japanese thing? Sony is in Japan, right? Wait, am I being stupid here? But thank you so much for the donation.
If you want to live anywhere on Earth, unless it's in some magical commune inside an anarcho-socialist head, you gotta get your broke ass off the couch and go make some money. But how exactly would you do this around the world? Well, for now, let's just ignore the whole, yeah, you can't just work for us when you're on a tourist visa, sir, shtick that people love telling me. In America, let's find, okay, here's little Joshua, all right? He's 17 years old and ready to start working. Let's give him a job at Chipotle, I guess. You get like 5 people that come up to the line all like, hey man, can I get a chicken burrito, but please remove the seasoning and tortilla and add a few sprinkles of Hawaiian volcanic salt glass on top and maybe a squirt of horseshoe crab blood on top, and you just make it and put up with whatever. You get paid $15 an hour, which isn't great, but if you split a plate with some of your friends and you have a little side hustle or passion project going for you, you can definitely sustain yourself for now. You can also just up and quit if your boss is annoying you, you're tired of the job, or if you want to move on to somewhere else. We can even extrapolate this to higher education. Let's say you're a computer science major who, after wrestling a music major for the last bet at the homeless shelter, finally are able to extract enough energy from a nearby power line to both charge your laptop and pass an interview from some billion-dollar mega corporation who just opened their first CS position since the Precambrian. You're probably not paid as much as you like, but a lot of larger companies offer good benefits, bonuses for high performance, and a hopefully suitable work culture that can help propel you to the next level of your career, whether that be through promotions or applying learned experience at a new company. Now, let's relocate little Joshua to the nation of Japan with a brand new
This is a way I can talk about things. I was just like trying to listen to how America is. Because again, like I'm not really sure about how American things work. This is where I'm going to talk about like literally everything. All the reality out there, okay? So let me just drink this Pepsi a little bit here. I'm going to spit some truth.
Visa. Where can you end up? Well, you got about 3 options. The first one, and one of the more common ones for younger people, is being an English teacher.
By the way, being an English teacher is the same thing as like working at McDonald's, everybody, okay? So if you guys ever want to come to Japan, like I want you guys to actually remember this. Being an English teacher in Japan is the same as working at McDonald's. Like I've been saying this. And if you guys want to know why though, if you want to teach English in Japan, and if you want to actually do it, if that's your dream, sure, go ahead and do it, because like that's what you want to do. You'll be happy, by the way, if you like doing that. But if you were just thinking like, oh yeah, you know what, I gotta work in Japan. Oh, you know what, I can teach English. That's literally the same thing as like, oh fuck, I gotta work somewhere. You know what, I'm gonna work at McDonald's. It's the same thing. Because like the motivation's like literally the same. You are trying to do something and you just don't know what you are supposed to do, and you just are trying to be an English teacher because like you just want to get a job, right? That's the same thing. So if you want to work at McDonald's, then just go ahead because you will like it too. But if you don't like talking to kids, teaching English to kids, dealing with like all the edgy students, then you'll hate it. So if you like it, do it. If you actually don't even want to teach, if you don't want to deal with kids, don't do it. Like this is like the biggest trap ever, actually.
People seem to think this one's easy to get, but let's just see that's really the case. The requirements are pretty reasonable. Are you fluent in Japanese? If not, good luck. You might be able to land a position as an assistant teacher or as a teacher in an international school. If you fill the requirements somewhat, good luck being picked out of potentially hundreds of applicants to any given
So
job.
actually, let me talk about this. Let me talk about my own experience here. I have like a lot of like foreign friends here. All the foreign friends I have in Japan that have been in Japan for longer than 10 years, they all do something else besides like except for teaching. They don't teach English in Japan. They usually do IT related stuff. One of them is actually a bartender, and one of them like does like whatever other stuff. What I mean is here, if you like doing if you have a job where you actually enjoy doing it, then sure, like you'll have a great time anyway, by the way. But teaching English is kind of like for some specific people, right? If you like it, sure, you will like it, but you have to ask yourself, like, is it really what I want to do? Because like work is kind of like what you will end up doing 70% of your life, right? And thank you, Kieran. I work at McDonald's and it sucks. I live in the UK. Thank you so much for the donation.
Even if you fill all the
And you guys want to work in the adult industry in Japan, like a porn industry? There's like some people, yeah. I mean, just go to Shinjuku. You can see a lot of like people that work in that industry. Some people. I'm not gonna say like a lot of people, yeah.
perfect requirements, good luck making a living wage, enjoying a less stressful life, on top of learning to integrate yourself with local culture and adjusting to a radically different lifestyle. According to this poster where they say, who from the West can live on $1,300 take home each month? Even if rent is only $400, you'd be living on $900 a month. Literally, Japanese McDonald's employees make around $1,200 per month take home. As a trained and qualified English teacher in Japan, you're making less than if you had worked at a McDonald's in America and Japan. And that's after going through the massive Japanese bureaucracy to both be allowed to work there, paying to get over there, and getting set up in the first place, paying for daily transportation, and everything in between.
I was an English teacher in Japan too. From my experience, all the teachers quit within like 2 years actually. I've never seen any teachers that taught English for longer than 2 years. Around me, okay? Around me. There should be like teachers like that have been teaching English for like 20 years maybe, but like around me, they usually quit after like a year or 2 years actually.
But, as I said
How
earlier,
long? In my case, like 5-6 years.
being an English teacher is a job that, despite the low pay for high qualifications, can at least be understood for being in this position.
Yeah.
It's a lower demand, high supply industry that is shrinking by the year, on top of, needing the proper qualifications to have the job. Okay, let's pivot away from
Not
that.
enough for living. I've been kind of talking about this, so like it is enough. This is something I've been talking about in every stream, but just because like I feel like there are a lot of new people here, let me talk about this. Do you think living in Japan is like expensive? I'm gonna just show you guys like some reality here. This is something I've been talking about like in every stream actually, but I feel like it's something I have to talk about. Yeah, okay, so some of you guys out there know the answer, yeah. Okay, so some of you guys know the answer, yeah. I've been talking about this. Yeah, like Michi, I mean, you know the answer because you're Japanese. So, it is cheap, is it not cheap? So the answer is literally this, okay? Alright, the answer is here. Do you live in Tokyo? Yes. Expensive. No. No. That's it. Tokyo is not Japan. Everybody, I've been saying this. Tokyo is not Japan. Tokyo is Tokyo. It's like, so, I've been saying this. Tokyo is kind of like Singapore. Like, if you get outside of like Tokyo, then like that's not Singapore. Like suddenly it's Malaysia. That's how I see it. So I'm in Shiba, right? And rent here in Shiba is like on average it's like around like what, like 400, not even 400. It's like $300 actually a month. And food is like in Shiba, like you can actually comfortably live if you have like what? Actually, $1,500 because rent is like what? $300. Food probably $200 or like $300 if you want to just freaking eat out almost every day. And electricity $100, water whatever $50. So like whatever altogether, yeah. So yeah, in Chiba it's freaking cheap, but in Tokyo it's a little bit different. In Tokyo the rent is like suddenly 700 or like even 1,000. Food is like a bit more expensive there. So like in Tokyo the cost of living is like 1.5 times more or like 2 times more. Like it's actually freaking like insane. そう、あと区外で買うのもあるね。でもね、みんな東京っていう時23区考えるでしょ、大体の人って。実際西東京とかもう神奈川とか安いんだけど。And thank you so much for the donation. I didn't actually see this. Aussies are getting into trouble in the snow. But thank you so much for the donation. I will check it later because I don't really think it has nothing to do with like this topic right now. I saw the donation, but thank you so much. But yeah, so is it expensive? Is it cheap? In Tokyo, yeah, it is expensive. In Japan, like in Chiba, for example, it's freaking cheap as fuck. Is it only Tokyo that is expensive? Yes. I mean, there are some exceptions. Like Kyoto, like tourist areas, yeah. But like those touristy areas in Tokyo are kind of expensive. But other than that, like all other places are freaking cheap as fuck now. It's like actually possible to live in Japan for like $900 if you try super hard. Like if you try super hard, you can. Because I did that, by the way. I did that. $900, so like that's about what? Like 14万, right? Like 140,000 yen. Now, if you're Japanese in Japan, like that kind of sounds doable, right? Like 14万. If you have like 14万, then you can kind of live. You cannot save up, but you can, yeah. Especially in Chiba. Not in Tokyo. In Tokyo, you will struggle, but yeah.
To more traditional industries. Congratulations, little Joshua. You've been promoted.
I have?
Yeah. I want to give you your very own diploma.
Oh, gee, thanks.
Now you can work at a higher skill company of your choosing.
Yeah, so I'm. Let me actually pin this because like this is actually a great information here. I make 300,000 yen a month. I'm living calmly in Fukuoka. So Fukuoka is like another huge like city in Japan. Fukuoka is like it's not that like modern compared to Tokyo, but it's freaking like actually a huge city, right? So he makes 300,000 yen, which is about $1,700, right? It's like $1,700, I think. It's around that much. And he's like comfortably just living there. And it sounds actually true. Like if you have like 30万, like okay, it's like 1,800, okay. So if you have like that much, yeah, I can actually see myself like even living in Fukuoka comfortably, yeah. Like I wouldn't have any problems in that area, yes. And thank you, the biggest issue for foreigner is the visas. Yeah, that, yes. That, yes. 東京以外に住んでればいい。本当でもそれなんだよな。だ東京はね、もうしゃあない。もう家賃がやばい。本当に。And thank you, 確かに3チームチーズ。I want to do IT jobs in Japan. Just graduated from top uni in AU and got N2 and can do conversational Japanese. I really would like to know how to start. Visit Japan first, actually. So in your case though, you got like all the skill set, it seems like, because like you actually, you know, went to the top university in Australia. And Japanese people love that thing, by the way. So just visit Japan first and see if you will really like it or not, because some people actually, you know, experience like actual bad things in Japan and they just go like, no. But come to Japan, and then after that, I honestly don't know how to get IT jobs for you because I've never done that myself. But either way, if you've never been to Japan, I really want you to come to Japan first. And then, figure out how to get a job yourself. I don't know about that part. But either way, I just want you to come to Japan first, before anything.
But choose wisely, because Japan has a wide variety of work environments from chill to... Anyways, good luck!
全国126院、賞レッスン208万人の実績があるエニナルクリニックがで
Alright, it's been about 3 months. Let's check in on little Jock. Oh, hey there, buddy. What's up?
I haven't gotten more than 4 hours of sleep in weeks. Almost every night I go out drinking with my boss until we puke. Most nights I miss the last call for the metro, so I can't even go home. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, if you're a salaryman in Japan, get ready to live the lives that 19-year-old unionized Starbucks baristas think they do. Your bosses treat you as expendable. You live and work, quote, 40 hours a week, but you're often secretly required to work more. While what this poster said isn't going to be what everyone experiences, on a general note, it is unfortunately a common thing in Japan. Quote, my wife, Japanese, works a minimum of 14...
So, that's like what we call a black company, right? ブラック会社. And so good companies are called white companies. ホワイト会社, right? And black companies are like the ones that basically enslave you. And those companies are disappearing now, actually. Like, those companies are getting called out, and they are now disappearing, but still those companies are there. So how do you avoid black companies, right? You can actually use the internet to kind of figure out, like, if one company is like bad or not, but you still like have to do a lot of like research. And in my case, I've never really had to deal with like any black companies myself, but I've heard the stories like that, yeah. So if you ever feel like, oh, Japan's like work culture is bad, it's not really entirely true anymore. It's all about whether you find the right company for you or not. Because I have a friend who only works for like literally what 4 hours a day in Tokyo. He's in Tokyo, right? And he gets like $4,000. Like, he just works for 4 hours a day, like five times a week, right? And then like $4,000. I'm not gonna say like what he does, but yeah, that's a thing too. But it's like all skill based. Like, if you get the right job, what job does he do? I cannot say much because I don't really think he wants me to talk about him here. But I'm not gonna say much, but he's got some skill set going on. So like, people want to actually have him, right? It has to be him basically. But if you have the right job, then it can be kind of chill in Japan too. So it's all about what company you work for. And thank you, Batman. I could easily live off 10,000 yen a month comfortably where I lived. I'm still poor, cause gotcha. Thank you so much for the donation. So that's Thailand, right? Yeah, in Thailand, like, it's freaking cheap. So that's Thai bahts or something? I forgot the currency, but thank you so much. I heard Thailand is like a lot cheaper too, but thank you so much for the donation.
hours a day, 30 hours overtime a week. If she tries to get help to reduce her hours, the response is...
Actually, yeah, this is exactly what's happening too. A lot of the black companies are getting called out in Japan now. Because, so like, they never got called out because what people did before was like, oh, that's the Japanese culture. Like, that's the work culture in Japan. But no, they actually, like, even Japanese people went like, no, that's not right, bro. What the fuck? So a lot of people decided to call out all the bad companies in Japan, including, like, Japanese people. Like, Japanese people freaking decided to go like, oh yeah, fuck you to like black companies. And a lot of foreigners did the same about like those black companies too, right? So like a lot of those black companies are getting freaking like massacred right now. So it's kind of rare to see like a real bad company, but they still exist. They still exist. And if you ever like see one, yeah, you just quit and you just like whine about it on Twitter, I guess. And thank you, Max Clark. Do you think that Japanese work culture is changing as regards the nightly drinking loss worship, or is that still the standard? The culture is like definitely changing, by the way. Like, a lot of companies are changing, and a lot of companies are trying to be modern now. Do you know how drinking parties, like nomikai, like where they have to drink with like their bosses and whatever, like that was like a Japanese culture, even though you didn't want to drink. That culture is now disappearing too, because like a lot of people think it's cringe in Japan. Like, a lot of young people, like, basically decided to say, like, oh, that's cringe, bro. So, like, a lot of the companies went, like, true, that's cringe in 2025. So, a lot of, like, bad rules and bad things are disappearing now. It is definitely changing, but it still exists. If you look for, like, those companies, they still do it. So, you really have to just find the right one, and if you get a bad one, you just have to say F you to the company and whine about it on Twitter, and you'll be fine, maybe.
Is that she is inefficient at her work and needs to work faster. 14 hours a day. That leaves you a maximum of 2 hours of free time if you want to get 8 hours of sleep. In Japan, it's entirely expected for you to go out drinking with your boss very frequently. Does this seem like a dumb idea? Yeah, it does to us living.
So, from my experience, I don't know if it's like that common anymore, but it does still exist, I heard, but it shouldn't be that common anymore. I don't know. I don't know about this.
guilt cultures at least, expecting that from somebody in America and making them feel like shit the next morning just for the sake of a drinking challenge would make many of us, regardless of status, probably feel pretty guilty. But in Japan, a lot of times it's an expectation. If you don't go out that night to drink with your boss that you don't even like, good luck having any future job prospects within the company or gaining the respect of your employer. On top of this, because a constant well-organized output of work is constantly required, lest you bring shame upon yourself, things better not change at the company, and you better not bring any concerns up to your boss. And the thing is, if you don't suck up to your boss or authority figure in some way, you're gonna get absolutely shafted and go nowhere very quickly. This is all pretty bad, but to be completely fair, not 100% of Japan is this way. Not every company's gonna treat you like garbage.
Yeah, like as I was saying, there are some companies like that are actually freaking like dog shit. That's true. Like that is true actually. But at the same time, like there are like a lot of normal companies out there too. So if you ever feel like this is true, that this whole video is true, maybe it is true, but I still like want to say that it's all about whether you can find the right company for you or not. Yeah. What if you can't drink? That was the case for me, and I said I can't drink, and like they were fine with it. But I never worked for like black company myself, so I don't know. Thank you, Saidi. Is there work discrimination against women and LGBT people there? Are people rude to LGBT people? As a lesbian, that's my biggest concern about moving. So you American, right, Saidi? Let me just shock you here. I was actually talking about this in the membership stream. But Kieran, thank you. What was the Japanese reaction to the Nintendo Switch 2? I don't know about that, but thank you so much for the donation. So I was talking about this in a membership stream too. So this actually, exactly this, what this dude actually said. As long as you keep it to yourself, you're good. Japanese people don't care what you do, what you like. Literally, they don't care. So like, if you just do this thing, like where you just like suddenly just go out of your way and you just go like, I do this. Hello. I fuck girls. If you do that, Japanese people will like, the fuck? But if you just do whatever, and if you like doing whatever, nobody cares. Like that's the Japanese like mindset. So like let me talk about the whole gay thing too. Actually, nobody cares if you're gay or not. Like that's the Japanese mentality. So I usually talk about this dude, Haga7. Haga7 is so he's like so openly gay. This guy's like so openly gay. He freaking like, I mean, look at this, right? Look at this. Like, that's just him being gay, right? And do Japanese people talk shit? No. They freaking just like, oh, that's freaking amazing. Wow, like, I should probably start supporting you today. Like, oh, I freaking also like support. I support this couple. It's like what he likes to do, right? It's not really like he's just going out of his way and going like, you have to accept him. He's not doing that. So if you just kind of keep it to yourself, nobody cares in Japan. Another thing is here, HG, Hard Gay. There was like this comedian called Hard Gay, and this is gonna shock you guys, by the way. So when I was like 10 years old, this guy was like so popular. A lot of kids liked him. A lot of people liked him. So his name is called Hard Gay, right? The name itself is freaking shocking. This dude was on TV, like literally everywhere, okay? This is what you saw on TV. And people legitimately thought like this guy was amazing. That's his comedy. And then, right, did people hate this dude? No, people liked him because he was actually hilarious. And so like, is it like, are people harsh towards like LGBT whatever? If you are not like, if you never just do like, you gotta know that I fuck girls. If you don't do that thing, nobody cares. Like actually nobody cares. I've never seen people who like, you know, suddenly got attacked by people just because you like girls as a girl. I've never seen that actually. Like if you just don't cause problems, nobody cares. So Japan is a country where you kinda can do anything if it's legal. And if you keep it to yourself, like for example, you can literally touch yourself to like, you know, my mom, which might be like crazy, but if you can keep it to yourself, like nobody cares. But that's probably the same in any country. So that's like a great, like that's actually a bad example. So what I'm saying here, nobody cares, right? Nobody cares, basically. Yeah, nobody cares. And like in Japan, the whole LGBT thing, nobody cares. Actually, like another example here. You know how in English there's like this phrase like where people say like, "Oh, that's gay. That's so gay," right? Right? Like, "Oh, that's gay." I'm 100% straight. None of this applies to me. But thank you so much for the donation, Kieran. Like, "Oh, that's gay. You're gay. Oh yeah, that's gay. That outfit is gay." You know, like that's a thing, right? In Japanese, there's no equivalent phrase to that. Because like when you say like that's gay in Japanese, that just means like, oh, he's a guy and he likes dudes. Yeah. So like nobody, like I actually had to learn about that culture myself. I didn't know what that was. So in Japan, if you like guys, you like guys, that's it. Like if you just kind of, if you're not like forcing other people like, I like guys, hear me out. I like guys. If you don't do it, nobody cares. Like nobody's gonna freaking attack you. So.
Or in the fact that you're a foreigner. And you're not
By
always
the way, I want to make sure. Sadie, did you get it? Did you get it? Did my explanation make any sense to you? Did you get it? Like again, there's like another guy called Matsuko Deluxe. He's gay. He's actually like I don't really know if he's like a transgender or not, but everybody likes him too. Actually, did that make any sense, Sadie? I have to make sure if you got it right or not. Cause like this is something I've been talking about. Like nobody really cares. What if someone's anime sexual? Then that's a weeb. Sounds better than the U.S. right now. Not sure like what America is like right now, but yeah, like the whole cultural differences here. Remember this. As a guy who's been to America so many times, as a guy who grew up with like Americans, so Japan is a country where you feel like there are so many rules. But you can do a lot of things as long as you are not causing trouble and if it's not illegal. America, on the other hand, is you can do so many things because it's legal, but it feels like you cannot do some certain things because there's like this peer pressure. That's the difference. So another example is like how I just go to Tokyo and I talk about anime and I do Rasengan. I watch anime. I freaking just run around screaming like those things, right? In America, people just freaking might go like, "What the fuck are you doing, bro? You good, bro?" They might talk shit to you, right? They might. I'm not saying like it happens 100%, but in Japan, you kind of just are. If you, as long as like you are not causing problems, like nobody cares. They might kind of just left, but that's it. They're not gonna talk shit. So that's what I mean. That's the cultural like difference I felt myself. Anyways.
He's going to be working 45 hours of overtime a month. On top of this, much of the world also sees unfair practices such as this. So, you might be asking, how does Japan uniquely stand out in this category among developed countries? Yeah, we have yet to talk about the wonders that are known as... What's a black company, you might ask? Well, imagine the worst case scenario of a job I just mentioned and make it even worse. How exactly? Well, we have a wonderful source here from this utterly fascinating Instagram account called literally Salaryman Tokyo. He details his day-to-day life working for one of these companies. In this video, our hero describes an utterly horrific work culture. Oftentimes, black companies target young workers or foreigners, like our little Josh.
Does he ignore normal chats on purpose or read donations? I ignored chats. I'm sorry. I was like actually watching this video. I'm sorry.
Because they genuinely just haven't heard about black companies.
I'm gonna pin you because like...
or the work environment. They'll work you to death, giving you meaningless tasks and threats if you don't complete them on time. Bosses don't want to help you, nor do they care about you in the first place, and just expect you to sit down and shut up. You just work all day, tirelessly, lest you summon the rage of your boss, all to make it home in the bum-ass middle of the night to get like 7 hours of sleep if you're lucky. Well, gee, that sounds kind of bad. I'd quit right away if I were them. Yeah, right. Let's say that you've had enough and you're sick of being treated like glorified property.
Wait. I watched a lot of Hollywood movies, and I watched Harry Potter. I watched Spider-Man. Like, I like Spider-Man, and I learned English watching Spider-Man.
Sick of the man and tell him that I quit. Yeah, we're gonna sue the shit out of you. What? Yep, if you leave, we're just gonna have to sue you down to every last atom of concrete in the foundation of your house. Yeah, you heard that right. Your own company that treats you horribly, almost like they didn't want you to be there, will make sure that you're walking away from them pretty much empty-handed.
As much as I want to talk about black companies, I really cannot because I've never worked for any black companies myself. So I'm really sorry, but like one thing I can say is here, yeah, those black companies still do exist, but yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how to deal with them.
And even if you can avoid this fate, they're probably going to sabotage your future job prospects by emailing future employers and trying to blackmail you. Again, since Japan is largely a shame-based culture, many of these companies will...
And then you Staz, TY for your content, Sora. How about those who can work from home like me? That's, by the way, that's a cheat code, yes. I've never seen any kind of visa for autonomous workers. I earn enough to. So, like, that's actually a cheat code as long as you can somehow get the visa. That's the best way to be in Japan. I've seen so many cases where they work remotely. I don't know how you get the visa, though, in Japan, but if you can somehow do that, then yes, and great. Umang, Sora only reads super chats. Yes, thank you so much for the donation. So if you can somehow, get like whatever visa in Japan, that's the way to be in Japan, and you'll be happy in Japan because like, right? I do it too, and I'm kind of fine being in Japan so far. What would you recommend for foreigners as job options? Something with languages. No, what skill set do you have, right? Like what skill set do you have? Like what can you do? Right? What can you do? Are you thinking about getting... I want you guys to actually think about this. What job do you want in your country? Think about it. Like, what can you do in your country? Do the same in Japan, right? It's not as easy as that, I guess. But think of it like that, okay? So, replace the word Japan with Germany. Like, oh, I want to go to Germany. What can I do in, like, Germany? Like, I want you to think about it. Like... Your skill set is more than anything. So like let's say in my case I'm Japanese, right? And if I want to go to like let's say America for example, I would definitely work for like those like entertainment whatever related stuff because I have my channel and I can actually like tell people how to grow like channels and I have like my career. I can actually like convince them like, oh, I did this myself. I know how to grow my channel. You have to hire me. So I'm not going to do anything Japanese related because that's my skill set, right? And they'll probably hire me too because I have like the most obvious proof, my channel, right? And that's what I would do. But it really depends on what you can do. I cannot say like, oh, this is the job for foreigners. And thank you, the visa's hard as fuck. Yeah, true. Digital nomad visa. I checked. Yeah, like I heard it's a thing. Like the visa issues are freaking so hard in Japan. So if you can get a visa, then you can just be in Japan comfortably. But I don't know, man. I seriously don't know. But yeah.
Out of fear of bringing shame upon their company and customers, not hire you. On top of that, even if you get past that stage, they might make you write an apology letter to guilt trip you. They're playing to both shame and guilt culture here, which
I don't know about that part, but maybe that's true. I don't know.
Is truly sinister. In America, we'd probably just say, yeah, fuck you, I'm
ブラッ
out.
クに当たった人の職種はね、大半はおそらくそう、英会話教師っていうか、大半は、これさっきちょっとね、英語で言ってたけど、日本に行きたいって言って、日本に来ることがゴールになってる人がいるんだけど、一番簡単なのが英会話教師なんだよね。で、しょぼいさ、なんか街のさ、怪しい英会話スクールってあるじゃん。ああいうとこに行くんだよ、みんな。で、給料が15万でしょ。で、ね、っていうのが今までのテンプレ。
Doing that, and we'd probably be fine. On top of that, word would get out about this company doing this kind of shit, and they'd either be put out of business or at the very least, see both internal and external pressures from investors, customers, and the government to at least partially change their ways. Despite how rough we got it over here, at least Western society has a strong enough influence on companies and organizations to universally shun practices like this, unlike turning a blind eye to it like what happens in Japan. Just to be real, this is not saying the West is
Yeah, it still exists, yeah. So I talked about this. It's not everywhere. Some people think it's everywhere, right? 日本語喋ってくれると思わなかった。いやなんかたまにやる。でもね、メンバーシップだったらもう全然日本語で言ってもいいんだけど、こういう公共の場の配信だとね、日本語で喋っちゃうと 97% の人が頭クエスチョンマークで埋まっちゃうから。So like, yeah, still like stuff like this actually does exist, but that's still rare though. I really want to say this. Like it's kind of rare as far as I know.
Works of our culture, and that Japan is a very high trust society, which is kind of the opposite from the US. All right, let's just leave all traditional work behind. Let's say you're an artist and that you want to work for an anime studio or draw for a living. Well, I hope you enjoy having every last drop of creativity and your enjoyment of your work sucked out of you by big publishers attempting to work young and inexperienced people to death with little pay. Young people, often from lower income countries such as Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, etc., even have work outsourced to them simply because they will work harder for less money. Big studios will use their beloved lineup of shows and create a sort of wow effect to create an idealized vision of what being a part of a team that creates anime is really like. If you remember, about a year ago, the studio behind the anime Jujutsu Kaisen, MAPPA, was under a lot of fire for working their animators so hard for such little pay that they could barely keep themselves afloat and had to make a choice between seeing their families or keeping their jobs.
Anime industry is like apparently really bad anywhere, but that's kind of like what people in Japan know too. If you want to be an animator, I heard it's basically a shithole, like because you don't get paid that much.
Long story short, in 2023,
tech companies in Japan. I wanna say this: if you can work like for a tech company in Japan, your life is like already promised.
MAPPA had forced its employees to sign a non-disclosure agreement related to the working conditions of the company. It's basically forcing them to stay silent against their will. A common tactic they use is outsourcing the drawing of in-betweens, basically like references between which an animation will move, and pay those artists, often newer and experienced ones, per still they draw. You might be thinking, oh yeah, it's probably, pretty quick to draw these and they might get paid like $10 a drawing. Yeah. How about averaging around $1 to $2 per completed drawing that can take anywhere between 10 minutes to
medical degree in Japan? Dude, if you have the medical degree like in any countries, like you are freaking you are kind of good to go, kind of. KJ. KJ ね、今ね、どこでもバズってるよね。So like, if you have the medical degree, like you can win in your life. That's what I think, but I don't know, man. Because like that's how it is in Japan. Like I don't really know, but
essentially, most animators in the industry can expect to make about the same as a U.S. minimum wage worker. In 1997, in an economy with a frequently weak and volatile currency, even if you're a higher paid individual, the amount of time you'll have to work will be absolutely soul-crushing. Expect up to 11-hour days with its previously mentioned low pay. Even disregarding the ridiculous hours, you can't even compare it to similarly low-paying jobs elsewhere.
Isn't medical industry ultra competitive in Japan? It's hard to get that degree in Japan. So I mean, isn't that kind of like how it is in many countries? But basically, if you have the degree in like medical whatever, like medicine for example, then I kind of feel like a lot of people will think you're smart in the first place, right? And again, I kind of think it's hard everywhere. So if you have like that degree, then your future is promised because like having that degree means you're smart. You have like some kind of like skill set, right? So
because often people can work second jobs. Many of my teachers growing up would also do bartending on the side or run a separate business because they had mostly free weekends and time over breaks to make money. This isn't even possible with an 11-hour workday schedule. Okay, fine. Let's say you land the perfect job, are treated well, and genuinely enjoy your life. Well, good luck seeing any meaningful growth in the industry you work in and the economy you live in. Japan, since the 90s, has been struggling to grow economically. They basically tried everything.
Like a lot of people in Japan have been like whining about the whole economy dying in Japan too. Like that's actually a thing in Japan too. This is actually what a lot of people have been talking about on Twitter. Like Japanese economy is like actually dying. And like a lot of young people in Japan are actually freaking whining about this everywhere. But this is actually true though. I mean, it's something everybody knows at this point. Yeah. Why did the Japan economy crash in the first place? I don't know, man. I wish I can talk about it, but I'm not an economist. I can guess, but it's probably not true, so I cannot talk about it.
To the sun, negative interest rates, enticing foreign workers, government programs to help stimulate the economy, etc. Almost none of this has worked. It's gotten to the point that Germany...
How was Japan in the late 90s and 2000? Late 90s, nobody cared about Japan. 2000, like, same. Recently, suddenly everybody started going like, Japan's cool, fuck! That's my experience as a Japanese dude who's been in Japan.
An economy that 20 years ago had a third of Japan's GDP has recently just surpassed it. And while this is a problem that is less tangible than, say, the aforementioned black company thing, its effects are felt societally and on the macro scale. The yen is volatile and weak against the dollar and euro. As an example, when I went in July, $1 ended up getting to a wild 160 yen.
Yeah, so basically what's happening right now is here. Let me talk about this again too. So I don't know if you guys like know about this, and if this is like your, if you've been watching my channel, you know what this is all about. So this is like Pepsi, right? 1.5 liters, right? So guess how much this is, everybody. Guess how much this is. Guess how much I got it for. So now you know how Japanese economy is like actually dying. So 1.5 liters of like Pepsi. Guess how much I got it for. Again, I'm gonna talk about how Japanese economy is like legit dying. You know how people say like, oh, Vietnam cheap, oh, Thailand is cheap. So the answer is here. It's actually, I got it for 80 yen, which is like what, like 50 cents or something? No. 55 cents, right? So that is, again, like the proof of like how Japanese economy dying. But this thing is usually like 120 in my area. But like they were doing like some sale actually. This thing is usually like 120, but it's either way, it's like freaking 80 cents. 80 cents. So the difference is freaking not that like insane. So yeah, Japanese economy is like literally dying. It's not even like $1. It's like cheaper than $1 now. This thing 1.5 liters, right? Pepsi. So everything is insanely cheap now. So if you wanted to get like a bowl of ramen, that thing is like what, $5 or like $4, and it's like some high quality ramen too. So if you think like, again, like this thing is like insane, right? どこのスーパー教えないけど、千葉県だと結構割とどこでも見るタイプの。あと業務スーパーにもあるんじゃないかな。米高いって言うけどアメリカもっとやばいよ。So yeah, if you ever think Japan's expensive, you are from 2007. Japan's like freaking dying.
By the time September came around, it had fallen to 140 yen per dollar, aka the yen became more valuable. Now, as of December, it has risen back to almost 150 yen to the dollar, nearly breaking 160 yen in mid-November. So, if your plan is to make some money and leave, good luck keeping the value of your work in place. While it might sound good that the fluctuations can go up and down and, maybe you could time it, the volatility affects both the economy of Japan and your ability to find suitable work. Well, I'm not going to pretend I can give you a dissertation on the macroeconomic effects of currency instability.
Is that why streaming is good there? It's just no. So, do you guys know the whole trend of like streamers causing problems in Japan? And like a lot of people like doing whatever stuff in Japan, and now they are getting called out. Do you guys know why that's a thing? I can talk about why it happens. So first of all, it's obviously Japan is like the safest, like one of the safest countries. Like whatever you do, they are not gonna freaking punch you in the face because it's Japan. And another thing is like Japan's basically like country where everything is like so entertaining. Like I kind of have to say this as a Japanese dude to myself, like. Japan's kind of like a theme park, and I'm Japanese and I still think Japan's like a theme park. This is my own opinion after going to America so many times. Japan literally has like so many things in like a one place, right? So you can do so much, which is like the best place for content creators. Like if you are a streamer, you can just go to Tokyo and there's like so much you can do. If you just want to do YouTube, you can just go to Tokyo and there's like so much you can do. And if you are tired of like Tokyo, you just freaking leave Tokyo and there's like so much you can do. Japan's like that one country, which is like the content heaven for content creators, right? And then it's now cheap too. So like those content creators come to Japan and then they just go like, oh, you know what? Like we want to get easy views. Oh, let's just do something crazy in Japan and we are not going to get arrested in Japan because Japanese people are kind. That's the formula, right?
Know that it's not really a good thing. And just a quick aside, if you like this type of content and want to see more of it on this channel, just let me know by subscribing and leaving your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to start a discussion about my findings and opinions. Alright, fine. The work sucks, the economy isn't great, but let's just ignore that. What if little Joshua wants to be a content creator, like those cool people he's seen over on YouTube? They can work for himself and not to put up with all the bullshit of the black companies or the job market in general. Well, the problems don't really end there. To succeed in any new culture, you gotta, to the shock of many of my fellow Americans, integrate with said new culture. With that comes learning a new language, understanding local customs, and being privy to their expectations. And oh boy, while Japanese culture might seem cool on the outside, on the inside, it's really a hidden leviathan, ready to devour those who are not prepared to adapt quickly and appropriately to its requirements and off-putting aspects.
Part 3. The culture is the reason why you should have moved to Japan. But let's see.
Gee, I know the job market over here is bad, but I'll find a way. Just like my
great umang. It's pronounced umung. By the way, I still don't know how to pronounce that even, but thank you so much for the donation.
Favorite anime character, it's Sumi Rinkaro from Ota Ota Rinkaro. Everyone will learn to love me, and I'll learn to love and appreciate them too. Then, one day, I'll find true love from an extremely skinny and pasty white woman with blue hair, big eyes, and massive tits.
Let's be honest here, Japan has a bit of an image problem. And I don't mean a Dr. Disrespect kind of image.
And yo, welcome to memberships. You'll get spams from my channel because I do whatever your membership streams.
Problem. I mean one of unrealistically high expectations, whether that be due to an incorrect perception of Japanese culture because of anime, a belief in a purely honorable and polite nation, or some twisted hypersexual interpretation of its lifestyle. As much as I understand most don't fully believe in any of these three ideas, you'd be hard-pressed to find people in the quote, Japan is amazing crowd who don't fall victim to one of these misconceptions. In this part of the video, I'm gonna weave my own experiences alongside the thoughts and experiences of others to make sure you're getting the most well-rounded view of it all. For now, let's start in a more generalized place and work our way inwards. Xenophobia is something many of us have heard from Japan. If you're new to the English language,
Xenophobia was kind of like a thing, a huge thing in Japan, and I don't think it's like that much of a thing if you're in Tokyo or Osaka. And thank you, Nayolfa. Never wanted to go to Japan because of the social isolation, but 7+ years in USA has been that. Should move to Fukuoka to study more Nihongo for a year. I have to tell you this. You shouldn't just suddenly move to Japan. You should just like come to Japan for like a week or something and then see if it's like what you like or not. Like, I really have to say this in every stream. Don't suddenly decide to move to Japan for a year. Like, why are you gambling, right? Why are you gambling? Try Japan. So, like, see it this way. Everybody. Japan's, like, your favorite girl. Like, you have a crush on, like, this Japan-chan, right? Japan-chan is here, and you like her, right? And then, moving to Japan, it's the same thing as, like, suddenly actually getting married to Japan-chan, okay? Like, let's just see it that way. Thank you, Kieran. How do I find out about all of Japan's rules? Even Japanese people don't know, like, all those rules. Like, even Japanese people freaking break rules, and we don't really care, because, like, it's just how it is. So, if you ever want to get married to Japan-chan, you gotta date, right? You gotta date. You gotta see if it works out or not. So you first kind of just try coming to Japan. Like you gotta kind of touch, like, you know, Japan-chan's like ass a little bit. That's basically coming to Japan. And then if you liked touching Japan-chan's ass, you basically come to Japan for like, you know, 2 months later, like as a student. And then if you liked touching Japan-chan's ass more, then maybe you can move to Japan. That's commitment, right? So you don't really just suddenly move to Japan like randomly. You're just literally gambling here. Like, you don't know what Japan-chan is like. You don't know who Japan-chan is. And you're now like, Japan-chan, I have a crush on you. You want to fuck? It's that, right? You kind of have to take steps. Like, step 1, ask her out. Step 2, this. Step 3, that. So, yeah, then that's the same. Like, oh, step 1, you gotta just do some research about Japan. Step 2, actually visit Japan for like 2 days, 3 days, meet people. Step 3, go back to your country. Step 4, make sure if you want to actually like, you know, study in Japan or whatnot, because you probably like your visit. Then come to Japan and study Japanese, right? You gotta take small steps. Like, you shouldn't really gamble.
If you aren't totally sure what that means, you're probably not American. But what that basically means is the fear of people from other countries. Again, while I must stress this is not a universal statement for Japan, many foreigners, often due to race or ethnicity, are discriminated upon in Japan. This obviously happens in other countries too, but the main reason I must stress it, but what that basically means is the fear of people from other countries. Again, while I must stress this is not a universal statement for Japan, many foreigners, often due to race or ethnicity, are discriminated upon in Japan. This obviously happens in other countries too. But the main reason I'm talking about it here is because Japan...
Yeah, I kind of want to say not really. But I feel like how he says that is a bit different.
Is, again, often idealized unnecessarily and tends to attempt avoiding...
Yeah, so like a lot of you guys are saying like I wouldn't agree. So I wouldn't say that either actually. But Stars, thank you. Anyone tried Go Nihon? Is it legit? I'm not sure. I don't know what that is, but thank you so much for the donation. Yeah, so like I wouldn't say that because I don't know. But there might be more he wanted to say here, right? So I don't really know about this, but yeah, I don't know actually.
This image. While the problem is often overblown a bit, there are lots of subtle things that may or may not affect your ability to live here comfortably.
Because like I've been saying this, like in Japan, it's not about your race, it's about your nationality. Like, are you from Japan? No, you're a foreigner. Like that's what that is. Like in America, for example, are you black? Are you white? Are you Asian? Are you from this country, that country, whatever, right? In Japan, it's like, are you Japanese? No. Are you so you're a foreigner? It's either Japanese or foreigners. So it kind of feels like it might be worse that way too, because like there's like this strong boundary between like Japanese people and foreigners. So that's what Japanese people do. So I don't know if it's like a that, but I don't really know. Yeah, like it's in Japan, like it's literally like gaijin or not gaijin or nihonjin, like foreigners or Japanese, right?
I will say, personally, I didn't experience any noticeable discrimination, but I'm also a tall, skinny white guy, so there's that. An anecdote from one of my friends I'd like to tell is this. His dad, who's Puerto Rican, which if you didn't know is an island territory of the United States that's mostly inhabited by Hispanic people, went to Japan on a business trip sometime before COVID. Just a note, his dad specifically is definitely not a white person. After arriving at this hotel, he decided to get to the pool. Once he got in, every single Japanese person got up and left. There's instances of stuff like this on public transport, people getting up.
All those Japanese people freaking got scared by the biggest dick ever. No, I actually know what happened. All those Japanese people freaking got scared by the biggest dick ever. Like Japanese people freaking scared of like big dicks and big tits. No, that's actually a thing, bro. That is actually a thing.
Moving seats, etc. It's not overly common, but it's also more noticeable than in America or Europe.
True, because like in America, that's a bad thing, right? Yeah.
For most places. Like I said, every country is...
Actually, can I talk about why Japanese people do this? Like, so they don't really do it in 2025 anymore because they got used to like foreigners now. But do you know why that's kind of a thing? Or that was a thing? Do you guys know why though, by the way? It's not really like, big dicks one thing. So like in Japan, like they don't like insult you or attack you because you're a foreigner. But like, I guess it's a thing how they kind of disappear. That's a thing. But do you know why though, by the way? It's not the smell. It's not the smell. It's the embarrassment of like them not being able to speak English after learning English for 7 freaking years. Like actually 9. Japanese people are so ashamed of like not being able to speak Japanese even though English is like our mandatory subject. And we feel so like insecure about it. And we just don't want to actually speak English. We think like showing like our stupidity is like really embarrassing. So what we do is like we kind of stay away from foreigners so we don't have to speak English. That's definitely a thing, yes. So the ones that speak English confidently will actually go up to you. And then they say like, do you need help? Yeah, language barrier, definitely it's a thing. Definitely it's a thing. Like ask any like people, like they say like, oh, 英語怖いから俺英語喋れないから they definitely say like, I don't speak English well. They definitely say it. And then the ones like actually try to freaking get close to you are the ones who want to learn English. And they will definitely say like, hey, do you need help? Can I learn English from you? They definitely say that. So that's kind of why they might stay away from you, but it's not like they're trying to attack you or anything. Like they just are so scared of like, exposing their stupidity. Because again, like in Japan, we study hard, right? But we studied English for 7, 6, whatever years, but we cannot really speak English well. We think it's embarrassing. And a lot of people like decided to, stay away from foreigners because of that. But in 2025, it's not really a thing anymore because like that, a lot of people got used to it. And a lot of people actually know how to use like apps to talk to foreigners now. It was not a thing before. So like, yeah, a lot of people did that. So in Tokyo, it's not a thing. In Tokyo. In Chiba, it might still be a thing. Yeah.
Went to Japan on a business trip sometime before COVID. Just a note, his dad specifically is definitely not a white person.
But that
Apple, Japanese, etc. It's not overly common, but it's also more noticeable than in America or Europe for most places.
Yeah.
Like I said, every country has issues like that, but I want to help bring some people back down to earth about how Japan may be represented in television or otherwise. I mean, you've probably seen it. Most anime you watch have people of like every skin color and race.
Actually, so like I can tell you something. Once you start speaking Japanese with your friends, they suddenly come close to you. So if you ever feel like Japanese people are like suddenly like going away, just say something like, マジアニメかっこいいんだけど。ラセンガン Suddenly you see people like staring at you. Somehow like other people will go like come up to you because they suddenly know that you speak Japanese, right? So you try it, like actually. Kieran, thank you. What happens if the gaijin can't speak Japanese? That's kind of like what I was talking about. So if you ever feel like people are like staying away from you, just speak Japanese. Like just say like Rasengan anime. Then I mean, don't even say Rasengan anime because that's not really Japanese. But try to speak Japanese like on the phone for something. Just act like you are talking to your Japanese friends, like Japanese friend on the phone, and say like, "Ore maji anime 超好きなんだけど," which means I like anime so much. They suddenly come up to you a little bit more because they know you speak Japanese, like suddenly. But yeah, which is something I experienced myself. Yes.
And gender genuinely an impressive amount of diversity, which can potentially mislead people into how some areas of Japan may treat foreigners. Now, onto a problem that's mostly unique to Japan, over-sexualization and sex crime. If you're a woman, or in some cases, a man who dresses feminine, this part's for you. Do you notice how in literally every anime, except ones made by a woman, Fullmetal Alchemist being a fantastic example, largely speaking, all of the women have this extremely over-sexualized vibe to their clothes, mannerisms, and general demeanor? What about the amount of anime and manga that features some aloof loser somehow stumbling?
Yeah, anime is for gooners. Like, why do you guys watch anime? Are you guys freaking horny for anime girls or something? What the fuck, bro? Stop watching hentai and get a life.
Into some magical world or perfect school where a bunch of high school girls are just absolutely gobsmacked by him and constantly want to get in his pants. What about
Stop watching hentai, bro. Like, are you guys freaking watching anime to goon or something? What the fuck? Get a life. Touch grass.
permeation of lolly culture into the media and in other places where they really shouldn't be, like with massage parlors and escorts? Well, we'll get into the specifics later, but for now, let's preface the current situation with some actual events that have showcased how out of control this has gotten in Japan. I guess a good place to start would be the adult escorts there's often spotted and often had come up to us while walking around in Tokyo and Osaka. This obviously is not unlike many other places that you can travel to.
Nothing about it online anywhere. I have it on my channel. So it's actually a thing in Shinjuku, Kabukicho especially. If you are a person like by yourself and walking in Shinjuku, they freaking come up to you. I filmed it, by the way, so many times. It's on stream.
But the difference here is the clothing and general aesthetic the organizations running these establishments and managing these escorts put on for tourists and locals alike. Many of
you guys know that, right? Like I freaking like actually experienced it myself, where like those like prostitutes would come up to me. They stop me and say like, "Hey, do you need a massage? Like, we give you like a great one." And I said, "Do you watch anime?" I did that, by the way, in Shiba, in my area, by the way. I got stopped by this like Taiwanese lady, and she was like, "Do you need a massage?" And I'm like, "No." "Do you watch anime?" And she just went like, "What is anime?" And I was like Dragon Ball, Naruto. "Do you watch Naruto?" And she just went like, Naruto? Oh, I don't know what that is. I'm like, I watch anime. If you guys are curious about it, it's from my stream. Like, actually, just go to my channel and then go to my live page. And I did that like a while ago. It was like actually on stream. It was like around here, I guess. I don't remember, but it's like it was one of those like freaking cringy streams.
Dressed in childlike clothing or maid outfits and have tons of makeup on to further accentuate what are known as neonatal features, often involving the appearance of larger eyes alongside a smaller nose and mouth. Similarly, they talk in high-pitched voices like a young schoolgirl would in most of Japanese media. On top of this, I've even heard of establishments that specifically roleplay high school-style scenarios for customers if they pay a certain fee, often revolving around a classroom setting or a public transport setting.
I know it's weird, but like, yeah. So like, a lot of people think that's hot, which I think is like really interesting.
This is really unlike anywhere else I've ever been to.
Yeah, right. Like, in a lot of countries, that's like a huge no-no thing, right? Yeah, like, a lot of people think it's hot. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really think it's hot either, but like, that's definitely a thing, yeah.
Heard of.
And in high school, like, uniform, like, that's hot, apparently.
Prefaces this situation on how out of control it has gotten. That's not to mention other strange things, like that used panties vending machine, or billboards showing young...
What? Where?
That's not to mention other strange things, like that used panties vending...
Where? I've been looking for that. Wait, what? Where? What the fuck? That's not a thing. Where? Wait, what the? Where is this? No, seriously, I've been looking for that ever. Next stream destination. No, I've been looking for this. It's not a thing in Japan. I spent like literally like 10 hours like looking for this place. That's not a thing in Japan anymore. And thank you. Kusa, I'm gonna travel to Japan next month. We finally can meet and go to Soplan together. I don't know why you like men, Soplan, but anything will do. Thank you so much for the donation. I don't know what just happened, but I really appreciate the donation. Looking for what? These vending machines, used panty vending machines. That's not a thing in Japan. I looked for it. I literally actually spent a whole day, okay, looking for those vending machines. And I figured out it's not a thing in Japan anymore because like they just don't do it anymore. So the closest thing I found was in Tokyo where they actually sell like underwear. Like it's an underwear vending machine, but it's not like anything like crazy or anything. So this is apparently like what existed like 20 years ago. I've been Googling this. If you guys know if it's like still a thing, let me know. I really want to visit this on stream. And I actually want to buy it too, but I don't know, man.
Vending machine or billboards showing young anime women in bikinis or other forms of revealing clothing everywhere. I promise you I'm not being a prude. It doesn't offend me, but it's something off-putting to see in a public and well-traveled area rather than in the usual red light district or in a more adult-centered area. The over-sexualization and frequent pushing...
Thank you, David Chun. Hey, baby, I'm going to Japan for 2 weeks, love you. Thank you so much for the donation. I think I remember you. Aren't you like a Korean-American guy like who decided to like come to Japan like a while ago? I remember you, by the way. The has, thank you. They are still a thing. Dotonbori. Really? Used panties? Yeah, okay, I remember you, yeah. Like, you were in the military or something. I remember you, yeah.
Childlike features and sexualized mediums has really created a lot of issues. What might those be? Well, let's talk about some of them. Some of us know the fact that, at least until recently, the age of consent in Japan was an eye-watering 13 years old.
So, like, as to that, though, I really have to talk about this. This is something, like, you see on the internet, but it's really not 13. It's really not 13. So, it's just because, like, a lot of people truly... like I don't know where that information's like freaking getting spread, but this is not true. This is actually not true. It's like the age where like when you can get married or do things if you are approved by the parents, right? If the parents like actually approve of like the relationship, like whatever you are doing, then that's suddenly fine. Yeah. But then the thing is here, no parents actually allow it. So like, there's been a lot of cases where, you know, people got arrested for this. Actually, it's not 13. And thank you, Kusa. Used by male or female? That's the real question. But thank you so much for the donation. So like, I've never seen any cases where like, I mean, so YouTubers do crazy stuff in Japan too. And there was like this one YouTuber who basically touched a minor who was like 16 or something. What happened? He got arrested because, like, of course, the parents were not fine with it. Usually, the parents report that too. Usually, the parents just go like, "What the fuck?" So, this whole thing is not really true. It's, I guess, like it's kind of what people say when the parents approve of it, right? So it's not like you'll get instantly arrested for like being in a relationship with like somebody that like that young. If the parents just go like, oh yeah, you know what, we actually are fine with that, then sure. I guess it's a thing, but it's never a thing because like parents just go like, what the fuck, usually. Kieran, thank you. How long does it take to get a manual driving license in Japan? If you just, I don't know, it depends. Like from like 2 weeks to like 6 months. But I don't know, man. Changed it to 16. I heard something like that too, but either way, like if you ever hear something like this, it's not because it's like that. It's more like it's the law is there, but you still need the parents' approval. Like you cannot just suddenly do it and like, oh yeah, you are 13, like it's you're legal. It's not a thing.
13?
Like I've seen so many cases where the kids like publicly talked about it on Twitter and the parents found it and they reported it to the police and the guy got arrested. I've seen so many cases, yeah.
This led to a notoriously sketchy legal framework that often let people who abused kids off with minimal repercussions. This all came to a head in 2023 when a 56-year-old Japanese politician thought it would be, quote, strange if he was arrested for having intercourse with a 14-year-old girl.
'Cause I like high school girls, that's why!
Saying this in America would have your head splattered against a
True, yeah.
brick wall by some people, but for most of recent Japanese history, this would have been seen as a problem by only a small but growing contingent of everyday.
So, like, Japanese people still like have problems with it too. It's not really like an acceptable thing, by the way.
Citizens.
But it's not really like a Japanese people freaking actually go after you. Like in America, people freaking try to hunt you down for that. In Japan, that never happens. But like in Japan, people don't really try to hunt you down unless you're Johnny Somali.
Government, however, was silent on this issue for decades, still basing their age of consent on a law from 117 years ago.
Yeah.
Finally, with these comments, the Japanese parliament voted to raise the age of consent from 13 to 16, which is still quite low compared to many other countries. They also finally redefined what they called, quote, forced intercourse, as now belonging under a general guise of non-consent. Basically, until very recently, there were numerous cases of non-consensual but non-violent cases of this act occurring that were thrown out or significantly lessened in their severity if the victim was over the age of 13 and, quote, could not prove that the interaction was violent. Only if they were under 13 was the, quote, violence part ignored. On top of this, Japan has a huge issue with minor sex crimes such as battery assault or groping on public transport. While officially, Japan's rate of non-consensual assault, sorry, I'm not trying to get demonetized, is more than 37 times less than that of the US, that's because an estimated 95% of cases are not reported. And for children, as well as members of the LGBT community, it's likely a lot lower. On top of this, many schoolgirls report that this happened to them at least once while on public transport. I mean, Jesus, I remember one being on an escalator in Akihabara and seeing signs on the wall that said, quote, beware of upskirting. But what might be the root of all this
I freaking see those signs like myself too. It's freaking insane actually.
behavior? And why has it continued to worsen over so many years?
Like, I don't know how that happens. Like, do people actually do this and take pictures? Like, what the fuck, man? I actually see those a lot in Tokyo, yeah.
Well, my friend, that may come down to much of the media and especially anime that's being produced in Japan, as well as a overall culture of silence that discourages people from speaking out against their abusers. I can speak from experience. Japan is a huge issue with everyday over-sexualization, especially of childlike features. As I mentioned earlier, I can give so many examples of instances where I saw escorts on the side of the street.
Thank you, Blake. Thanks for making the workday less boring. Thank you so much for the donation.
Harassing friends of mine while dressed in little maid skirts and wearing makeup that enhance their more childlike features.
And thank you, Kieran. Why do you remove streams? I make all those like reaction streams unlisted because I don't really like to keep those like reaction streams. Because people can have things against that. I usually try to make it like a commentary thing, right? I don't really just watch streams and watch videos and just go like, that's very interesting. That's true. I try not to do it. But still, some people don't really like how I use somebody's content and talk about it on stream. So I just kind of try not to do it, yeah. That's kind of why I make them unlisted.
Other, less lascivious examples involve what are known as, quote, idols, which are usually young-looking adult women in large...
Actually, that's something like I've been curious about. Yeah, all those idols are young, yeah.
...revealing clothing that sing and dance for crowds of older men in a weird hybrid of anime and real life. Here's a video I got in Osaka of this very thing happening randomly when I was walking up...
You guys know about this. I'm actually curious about this, yeah. Like, I've been curious about why it's a thing. I don't really know. I guess it's just the culture.
This place fucking rules. As I mentioned earlier, if you've ever watched like an anime before, you've seen how often high school kids, young girls, and even trans people are sexualized. A great example is an anime like Dr. Stone, which I myself really like, but there are multiple instances of often female characters who are canonically 16 or younger having very extreme proportions and a large focus on said body parts, often unnecessarily. I don't really need to list out more examples because I'm sure you can come up with your own. On top of this, Japan has a huge issue with virginity. Yeah, really.
The whole anime thing led to like this conclusion. I was waiting for it. Oh, and by the way, there's like this guy called Peter, Professor Peter or something. Like that guy actually studies like virginity. So he's like his research his research field is like virginism basically, right? He says like Japan has the most virgins. Like Japan has the highest virgin rate, and as a guy in Japan, I can actually guarantee you that Japan has the highest virgin rate. It's freaking insane. you can like find so many virgins, and like being a virgin even is like a winning move sometimes. Like sometimes you just go like, oh, I'm a virgin, and people just go like, let's go, that's fire. Like it's seriously a thing, because I know a dude who got clout for being a virgin in Japan. He's called Baki Baki Dote. That dude basically got clout because he's a virgin. It's this dude. Like Japanese people know about this dude. So, and he's got 1.82 million subscribers. His career is all about being a virgin. He basically got interviewed on TV and he said, like, I'm so virgin. And he blew up for saying that. And now he's popular. Like, a lot of people freaking worship him because he's a virgin. But he's like so confident about being a virgin, right? He's like, I'm a virgin, right? And like any of his videos are kind of related to him being a virgin, I guess. But I don't know, man. Like, so being a virgin is kind of like an uncool. It's not a cool thing, right? I guess it's the same in Japan too. But some people freaking praise you for being like a virgin. Like, oh, let's go. You don't have a life. Same. Like, I see that in Japan somehow.
According to a study conducted in 2019, over a quarter of Japanese people under the age of 40 are virgins.
Touch grass. Stop watching anime and VTubers. Get laid, bro. Stop being a virgin.
This may seem like a bit out of left field, bear with me here. This issue is largely driven by an overworked nation of young people who have no time or ability to meet each other, despite the government.
What I heard is different. I actually talked to like my students about this when I was a teacher. So you guys know I used to be an English teacher, right? I used to be an English teacher and I taught like everybody. I taught from like 3-year-olds to like 80 whatever year olds. I actually talked to this one dude. So I started teaching him when he was like 15, and then I taught him up until like he was like 20. He actually told me, he was like, oh yeah, sensei, teacher, right? Sensei, Sora sensei, like, yeah, I'm not gonna date any girls. And I was like, why? And he's like, I think anime girls are better. And I'm like, and I was like, you actually think so? And he was like, yeah, anime girls are better. Like, do you know how cute whatever Chan is? And he freaking started taking out his phone and he just like showed me like his favorite anime girl. And I'm like, and like I keep hearing this, by the way, from like a lot of people, like young people. Wait, is he wrong? I'm not saying he's wrong, but I don't know, man. Like, why is he freaking like? I'm like, but I guess that's just kind of like, you know, what's happening. But that's what I know. Like, a lot of Japanese people started liking anime girls and VTuber girls, and they actually think those like anime girls are better than real life girls, and that's kind of what's happening in Japan right now, as far as I know. Thus, they are more virgins because they want to have sex with anime girls in VR.
Attempting to spur development in this way, they've so far failed. It's a crisis that also affects nations like South Korea and even China to an extent. What this means is that, importantly, a lot of people, specifically men, have less knowledge and experience surrounding courtship and romance, which leads to the unfortunate reality that anime and NSFW anime, again, I'm trying to keep my mind.
Yeah, okay, so that's finally mentioned. Like, I'm not talking about nerds, actually. Like, so the dude I was talking about, the student, right? He was not a nerd. He would actually freaking hit the gym, and he's kind of masculine, and he plays badminton. He's kind of smart too. He's kind of good looking too, and he's from a good family. But then he started going like, anime girls are better. And I'm like, fuck. This guy has like no life now.
Have led to unrealistic expectations for many. Anime such as Steins Gate, while absolutely a great anime, have perpetuated scenarios like this. A man who's a giant loser that suddenly gets involved with like 40 attractive women that also finds the love of his life among them. While I'm not saying this is impossible, it has gradually progressed to, now, in more modern anime, we have what's known as the genre of isekai. Isekai, for the uninitiated, is a genre that you've probably heard parts of before. Someone in a usually shitty state of living one day dies or magically wakes up in some fantasy or video game world that they now have to explore and figure out. While not all follow this exact formula, it has become increasingly...
All these anime stuff are popular now because like people in Japan can relate to that, I heard. Not sure about that, but yeah.
common. What has developed out of this is an increasing amount of stories that involve
forced labor.
Yeah, no, and I don't mean the horrors of real life examples.
I actually get it. Yeah, he's ranting about unrelated stuff. So yeah, why you shouldn't, why you don't want to move to Japan. This part actually has nothing to do with like, you know, not moving to Japan. But I guess he's just talking about everything about Japan, so you can actually figure out whether you are fine with it or like you are not fine with it, I guess.
Of this, I mean a male loser archetype being teleported into a video game world where he purchases women and doesn't necessarily use them, but it's very much implied that's the case. While this concept in full is nowhere near universal, many shows incorporate creepy elements such as this in an attempt to either satisfy the creator themselves by using a self-insert, or to satisfy, often male fans, who have been gradually lulled into a normalization of this concept. And to be fair, shows that feature this are often criticized by parts of the Japanese public and the anime community, but they're still being made to this day, which tells me that there's definitely an audience for them. The reason I talk about this is to point out its ramifications. In other words, how exactly does this affect everyday life in Japan?
Yeah, well, I guess like that's what he wanted to talk about. So like all these anime talks, he was kind of like just bringing these things up. So then like this, right? Yeah.
I have a couple anecdotes from my time in Japan that can hopefully help illustrate this. During my last few days in Japan, I was staying in Tokyo, specifically a couple blocks away from Akihabara, also known as Electric Town. While this place is genuinely pretty cool and has lots of good food and shops, it's other things that were a bit of a turnoff in terms of my enjoyment of the area. Billboards and signs often featured young-looking, scantily clad anime girls plastered everywhere, often mentioning new shows or advertising products. And while yes, this is not a unique concept to Japan, I promise I've been to Vegas, I've never seen anything quite like this. It's
as a guy who's been to Vegas like 2-3 times, as a guy who freaking actually spent like, you know, a week with a local like Vegas person, yeah, I never actually saw anything like that, but you actually see tits, like real tits instead. So the difference is here. In Japan, you don't see real tits, you see anime cleavage. In Vegas, you see the real tits. So I feel like Vegas was like a lot more wild. To be fair, yeah. I don't know, man. So like, yeah, I saw real tits. Like in Japan, in Akihabara, I was like fine, like streaming everywhere, and I didn't have to hide my camera or anything. In Vegas, like literally when I streamed in Vegas, I had to just like hide my camera because like you see tits there, yeah.
Mainly a one-of-a-kind thing. Continuing the story, I was looking for a Hunter x Hunter figurine I wanted in a gift for somebody else, so I went on Google Maps to try to find a store that sold it. I wandered around with a friend until we stumbled across one specific store. As we walked in, it was noted that the store we needed to go to was on the 3rd story. So we got in the elevator, noticed the 3rd story was blocked off. We figured we'd check out the 2nd story just in case there was some glitch or it was mistyped or something. When those elevator doors opened, we were immediately blindsided by naked anime women everywhere, some even being underage.
He went to the Gunner shop. I did that on stream. I freaking went to like this card shop that has like a Hololive cards, and yeah, that was a Gunner shop, yeah.
Where are we right now?
Yeah. He went to the Gunner shop.
Dude, yeah, oh my fucking god, we should do. Safe to say we didn't really.
Yeah. That happens in Akihabara. In Akihabara, neat location. I don't go to like anime whatever stuff, right? And like anime. Seijin is usually the word for that. Yes, Seijin is basically like adult, like Seijin anime. Then you'll freaking just find this Gunner's spot where all the guys are like, oh, Sakura-chan, kawaii. You see them actually freaking gooning. I went there on stream. It was so awkward, but I didn't film anything.
Stay long. This is not a one-time occurrence either. We'd frequently wander into stores and start climbing stairs to see where we'd end up, only to find ourselves in the back of the store with NSFW manga and other lewd images plastered all over the wall. Even figurines in regular shops that had storefronts facing the street often featured hypersexualized feminine characters on full display for everyone
But this is like Weave's dream, right?
to see. Again, I'm not trying to be a prude. I'm a grown-ass adult. This doesn't really offend me. It's just how I know a lot of people might find this sort of thing weird and uncomfortable. I know that Akihabara is...
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Like, I know a lot of you guys are, kind of used to that, but some people legitimately feel uncomfortable about...
It doesn't really offend me. It's just how I know a lot of...
Seeing this randomly. Yeah.
People might find this sort of thing weird and uncomfortable. I know that Akihabara isn't the sole representation of Japanese art and culture, but it's important to note that it's a center of nerd culture in Japan, and it's a good representation of anime and a decent chunk of Japan's art culture. The further ramifications of the normalization of this kind of sexualization of childlike concepts and a generally lax attitude toward sexualization in the first place show themselves in the laughably light punishments child offenders get in Japan, as well as a hush-hush culture involving offenses on people of all ages. Good examples of this include manga writer and artist Nobuhiro Watsuki, who, after being caught possessing underage material, was given a fine of $1,800. He was actually, at the time, currently writing a manga that had to be put on hiatus after his charges went public. Then,
that
after
actually
he got
became like the biggest news in Japan, and I think he got canceled actually.
and paid the fine, the manga resumed serialization. Like nothing ever
I remember he got so much hate that he got canceled or something. I remember about this, yeah. It was like the biggest news ever in Japan.
happened. Even if someone got off with a light punishment for such a crime basically anywhere else, there's
I might
no
be
way
wrong
in
about it, but yeah, like, he got so much hate for that, yeah.
hell they'd ever see the light of day in that industry again. Similarly, the writer Tatsuya Matsuki was arrested and charged with 2 counts of indecent act on a female middle school student. He was given a sentence of 1.5 years, but it was instead suspended and he walked away a free man. Now, to be fair, his manga did not resume after this, but it still details how offenders often receive very light punishments for their actions. That's on top of the earlier mentioned cultural issues with calling out this kind of behavior publicly, so many cases like this probably go unreported or are thrown out privately in some way. Even if a punishment is given, it's often in terms of a civil case where a victim is awarded money for damages, but not a criminal case where the perpetrator actually received jail time for their actions. Is Japan a really, really fun place to visit for most people? Oh yeah, 100%. I had an absolutely fantastic time on
Is it
this.
stuttering? Wait, is it dying? We back. Well, was it dead for a bit? Stream remote. Yeah, probably the server died or something. Yeah, the server died for some people, yeah. Maybe.
Visiting, and I recommend it to basically anybody who's fortunate enough to go. And I guess in that sense, I should extend a huge thank you to my patrons and everybody who watches my videos because the revenue I've acquired from running this channel actually helped pay for that trip. So every single one of you are basically a patron for this.
Okay, so that's basically it, right? And what I have to say about this is, like, I guess, like, a lot of the things he said is actually true. Like, all these things, there are some things that I don't think is true. Something like, you know, what happened to Wazuki Nobuhiro, the guy who made Rurouni Kenshin, because I remember he got some insane hate. And he got, like, everybody was, like, talking about him, like, when that happened. So as to that, I'm not really sure. Like, there were some things I would disagree with him, but all these things you actually saw are kind of probably true. Again, this is why Sora shouldn't delete the stream. Actually, it's just unlisted, so you can actually watch the stream later if you save the link. It's lagging. Is it really lagging still? EU? Oh, EU server? Oh, Europeans are freaking struggling now? Back? Yeah, I guess it's just Europeans, yeah. Yeah, Europeans are lagging here, I guess. But yeah, either way, I just kind of wanted to talk about, like, everything here, because I just wanted to summarize the whole, like, stream here. So, I don't know if you don't want to move to Japan because of, like, those reasons, but this video is, like, again, he kind of wanted to talk about everything about Japan, so you know, like, what Japan's like. Like, there's, like, that part of Japan too, right? And that might, you know, make you feel, like, weirded out too. That's definitely a thing. So, I don't honestly think that has anything to do with, like, you wanting to move to Japan or whatnot, but I guess it's just that, you can learn what Japan's like from this video, right? But the thing is here, if you want to move to Japan though, you really have to just visit Japan once, right? You just have to, like, visit Japan once and see if you really like being in Japan or whatnot. EU is back, really? Europeans, are you back now or no? You're back. All right, Europeans are now back. So, like, the servers for Europeans were kind of dead, but other people were, like, you know, fine. So let me just summarize this whole thing. Whatever you saw in this video, like, so if you actually, you know, just kind of pay attention to what he's saying, all these things are partially true, actually, like, about the whole, like, anime, like, you know, part too, especially. There are some things I would like to disagree with them too, because again, I'm Japanese and I grew up in Japan, so I kind of see things differently too. But that's mostly true. Like 89% of like the things he's being signed here are actually true, right? But so should you move to Japan or should you not move to Japan based on these? It's up to you, right? But either way, if you want to move to Japan, you really have to just visit Japan before anything. You gotta visit Japan. You gotta make sure it's the country you like or not. It's like whether you are fine with like, you know, dealing with like whatever stuff or not. You have to make sure like being in Japan is like something you want to do, right? So that's basically what I have to say. Here and then I'm going to learn Japanese. Any tips, bro? Make Japanese friends. But yeah, so that's it. And I'm gonna read comments for 3 minutes, and I'm gonna end the stream. And by the way, everybody, in 2 days, in 2 days, on Thursday and Friday, I'm going to Mount Fuji. But would you guys be interested in that? I'm going to Mount Fuji and the Aokigahara forest. I cannot really get in the forest because like the internet sucks there. But I'm thinking about going to the Mount Fuji like area in the afternoon in my time. So yeah, I'm gonna be there, and I'm gonna stay at a level till 2 to hear sax. The same usual thing. But I haven't done it recently. I just wanted to travel. Aokigahara, I cannot get in the forest, by the way, because like the internet sucks. I can just go there. And it's not really like actually worst. It's not the worst place ever. It's actually beautiful with like nature. It's not bad, by the way. So I'm going to just read comments for 3 minutes, and I'm going to say bye to everybody. I'm going to play table tennis. Here. It looks awesome there. Yeah, it is actually. It is amazing there. Will they close the roads for winter? Some roads are closed, yes. Gaze, thank you. When we go into Sakuragicho for drinks and soapy, I'll think about it, but thank you. Drop a link or something. So I'll explain how it works. Save the link or like the stream, and you can keep it in your playlist so you can rewatch it later. You don't have to like the stream. I'm not saying like, oh, like the stream and hit that sub button. I'm not saying that. You just have to get the link yourself, right? So how to do it is here. Like the stream so like it will show up in your liked history, or just keep it in your playlist and you can watch it anytime. You don't have to like it, but I'm just saying like you can just keep it that way. Or just keep the link yourself. It's not gonna get deleted actually. It's gonna be still unlisted. You can watch it anytime. Mental illness. The same as any other countries that do that, yeah. I don't know how it is in other countries, but job market in Japan? That's a great question. I don't know much about it. Nice. Membership stream. I want to play table tennis. I want to end the stream soon. So I'm not going to really do a membership stream this time. Smaller streamers to grow. Do what nobody... The easiest way, copy what the top creators are doing. Literally copy what the top creators are doing. Like just literally do the same thing. Copy everything. That's the easiest way if you just want to speedrun. And thank you, Max Clark. If I see you on the street, is it weird to say hi or is it cool? Have you had IRL interaction with viewers? My viewers stream snipe me all the time, and I welcome all the stream snipers too. 久しぶり、ザキピョン. So like if you want to snipe me, you can. And I usually say like you can show up, but your face will be on stream too. Like you can stream snipe me and I will talk about anime with you for like 5 minutes. That's how it goes usually. Off stream? What do you mean? Off stream? I don't think you can snipe me though. So ごめん、今終わるとこなんだ。申し訳ないな。今ちょうど終わるとこ。終わりますって今言ってるとこ。 You can still say hi to me off stream. Some people like do that too. I get noticed sometimes, like when I'm not streaming in Tokyo. Sometimes. They usually just say like, "Oh, is it you, Sora? Can I take a picture with you?" And I take a picture. I just do Rasengan, and they just like do this. So that's it for the stream, everybody. I will see you guys in 2 days maybe, and I'm going to Mount Fuji, like Aokigahara Forest, to let you guys know it's not anything scary. It's actually a nice place with nature. I know like some people think it's like the scariest place ever because like, you know, there are ghosts and whatever, but that's not true. That place is like full of nature and like bears and boars and deer fighting each other. Like it's a place where animals kill each other more than anything. It's not really like you can see, you know, people that are dying. You see freaking bears like killing other things. That's you might see. But anyways, bye bye everybody. I will see you guys in 2 days, and I might do like a membership stream tomorrow too. I'm not gonna do anything today. I just want to play table tennis. Bye bye everybody. And this stream is gonna be unlisted, which means if you want to watch it later, just save the link. If you don't know how to save the link, I'm not saying it for the sake of like getting likes. Like the stream so that it will be in your liked history, or put it in a playlist so you can watch it later, or copy the link so you can just save it yourself later, or go to your like, you know, history so like my stream is there. Just do whatever and just save it. Yeah. Anyways, bye bye everybody.